Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight our guest is Margery Phelps. We're going to be talking about her. She's an author. She's did a workbook on reincarnation. Actually gave me a copy. I've been kind of perusing for it. I've been sick all week. I really wanted to actually do the workbook before I got to do the show. I've been miserable. No remembering my past lives right now. I'm trying to just hold on to this life. Oh my God. It's been the phlegm nightmare from hell. You heard me last week. Well, I'm even worse. It's been all week long. So bear with me tonight. I'm going to try to make it through it because I knew that I had a really good feeling. I know this guest is going to be good. And I love the topic. Of course, I love all these topics, but I really love the topic of reincarnation. This is our second guest to just totally cover this topic. So I'm excited. We got some future guests to get more into reincarnation. It's just something I've always been interested in since I was a kid. Something that deep down in my gut since I was a little kid. I grew up in a household where believe what you believe, you know. Choose your own way or religion. Very open-minded household, and I early on believed in reincarnation since I was a kid. So I can't wait to talk about that. And of course, we'll have phone lines tonight. You'll be able to call into the show. We even got the Soup live chat video call-in line working where we can see you and you can see us. Finally, we got it working, so it should work tonight. Fingers crossed. And then, of course, what we do every Sunday night is a World Wide Web of Weird, and we got some great stuff to cover in that, so I'm excited to get to that. So let's get rolling into the show. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. For those listening on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, we are a webcast. We have a Facebook page where we do a video webcast of the show. It's at Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. You can come watch and see us, or you can just stay and listen. I try to narrate as best I can for the World Wide Web of Weird, and it's all about the theater of the mind, but I do enjoy the video. That's what I grew up in. Like I said, bear with me tonight. I barely have a voice, lots of tea. I've moved on to coffee. I've drank 3 cups of tea. Now I'm on to coffee. I need it to keep myself awake. But I think this topic will keep me awake pretty well. And of course, joining me tonight is my lovely co-host, Janiece D. How you do tonight, Jamie? Oh, that's Jeff. There we go. There you are. Sorry.
Doing great. One of my favorite topics tonight, so I'm really excited about this one.
It is. I mean, I swear, since I was a kid, it's just an idea that just fueled my imagination. You know, it was, have I lived another life? You know, could I have been some great explorer? Or, you know, everybody wonders, like, was I somebody, like, really special in the past? Because I'm not special now, but maybe I was in the past. You know, the ego definitely wonders about it. But it's just the idea that you've lived all these different lives, and you're going to live more. You're going to live other lives, you know, that you're eternal. I think in her workbook, one of the first things they ask is, do you believe in an eternal life? And if you do, you know, do you believe you might have lived before? And I'm like, yep, that'd be me. I definitely have. All right, and join us from St. Augustine, Florida, himself with sound, Rob Autry. How are you doing tonight, Rob?
Doing a lot better, you know, considering I have sound. So.
Yeah, it was a shaky start. We got you on here,
yeah,
and I need you and Jamie. I need your voices tonight. I need you to talk, join in the conversation. These guys are great. They help me out with the show so much, and they moderate my chat room. And bring me questions from the chat room. That's one way to chip in tonight. But I'm trying to get them to talk more. I know I talk like a million miles a minute, and it's hard to get a word in edgewise, but you might tonight, because my voice is definitely going to be crashing by the end. All right. Well, of course, on our video engineer is here with us, Jeffrey Chan, and we probably should go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, I always like to start off with, if I have one, an update on something we covered before in the World Wide Web of Weird. And a few months ago, before this whole midterm stupid election, we talked about a man who writes Bigfoot erotica and was running for Congress. Well, guess what? He won. For those listening on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, like I said before, we are a webcast. You can see our show at Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup on our Facebook page, and you can see the videos. We get a lot of videos tonight, so there is some stuff to see. But I understand a lot of people, some people don't have Facebook. I've just recently thought about going back to YouTube just because I've heard some people go, I really want to watch, but I don't have Facebook. And I don't blame people for not having Facebook. Trust me, just YouTube really ticked me off. So it's in the works. It's in the thoughts. We might start streaming on YouTube again. We'll see. I'd love to hear my fans' thoughts about it. You can always email me at jblandparanormalsoup@gmail.com. I believe it. No, it's Paranormal Soup, jbland. Sorry, Paranormal Soup, jbland. I always get that mixed up, at gmail.com. Email me. Tell me your thoughts. Or message me on Facebook if you're a friend. Tell me your thoughts. Where would you rather me stream? Okay, so this comes from the cut.com. Man who writes Bigfoot erotica, now a U.S. congressman. Now, I brought this up months ago because, I thought it was really crummy. His Democratic opponent, was like trying to nail him for writing this Bigfoot erotica book. It wasn't really as much a Bigfoot erotica book. Yes, it gets in the cover. We're showing the cover of a very well hung, well, maybe it's censored Bigfoot that is on the cover of his theme. But he was trying to make a point about relationships. And there are encounters of Bigfoots that are sexual. There are. I've heard these stories. But Republican Denver Riggleman, a man who once wrote a book titled Mating Habits of Bigfoot and Why Women Want Him, just beat out a Democratic challenger, Leslie Cockburn. Wow, these names. Olivia Wilde's mom. Wow. Cool. I didn't miss that when I read this before. For the U.S. House of Representatives in Virginia's 5th Congressional District seat, the district has historically voted Republican. In what has to be the strangest race in midterms, Riggleman beat Cockburn by 7 points, according to the New York Times. We learned about Riggleman in his Bigfoot book in July, that was the one when I read it, when Cockburn tweeted out a screenshot from Riggleman's Instagram. The post showed a buff naked drawing of Bigfoot with a very large censor bar covering Bigfoot's privates. Man, he's hung. It's what it makes it look like. Or maybe it's really small in there. I don't know. Don't erase the censor box, Riggleman had captioned the post. Cockburn's tweet contained 2 damaging pieces of information about Riggleman. She wrote that he was caught on camera campaigning with a white supremacist, and now he's exposed as a devotee of Bigfoot erotica. Riggleman defended his post. He pointed out the drawing was a cover for his upcoming book and was meant to be funny. It is. It's hilarious. I love you, man. He claimed the book was not very sexual at all and was about Bigfoot believers. Unfortunately, his predilection for Bigfoot is not the worst thing about Riggleman. The Trump-endorsed businessman, is that the worst thing? Really was not out campaigning with a white supremacist in July. He was videotaped with Isaac Smith, the co-founder of Unity and Security for America, which the Southern Poverty Law Center categorizes as a white nationalist group. Well, only thing I'll say about that is sometimes they categorize a group because they are a bunch of white guys who are nationalists as white supremacists, but they're not. Maybe they are some jerks. I don't know, but I'm not going to get into political debate, but just because you say you're a nationalist doesn't mean you're some white supremacist. Again, we got to have this debate that saying you're nationalist means you love your country. It's, go look it up. All right, we'll move on.
It's funnier that his name's Cockburn, but that's
the woman. That's what's her name? The actress is who's hot.
Okay.
Man, that's her mom's name. No wonder she changed her name, right? Yeah, Leslie Cockburn, who posted about his book, tried to expose him. Well, the Republican voters didn't care. If the Democrats have not learned, Republican voters don't care about any of that anymore. Okay, let's move on. And still on the topic of Sasquatch, we got a good video here. This has been very viral from Sasquatchable.com, which, by the way, I love your guys' website. Thought it was a bear until it stood up, and incredibly new footage from Saskatchewan, Canada. I probably butchered that. Montana Beast Mysteries posted a video that is really fascinating from Saskatchewan, Canada. It shows a creature out in the distance that looks like a bear, but then it stands up. You can see long arms extend with it, and when it stands up, eventually when it goes back down to the ground, it gets incredibly low to the ground. Check this out. And it was hard trying to find like a full video copy of this. The first video we show, and I can't play the audio of the guy talking because they kind of bleep it out, but they don't. He says a swear word we definitely don't want on the air, so we're not going to play that. But the original video is from a cell phone, you can tell, and it's really hard to see. You see this black figure in the back. Now, it's when they zoom in, of course, it gets really grainy. because it's a cell phone when they zoom in, but it gets really interesting. And when you first was I'm like, oh, that's a bear. It's a bear, especially when it's down on the ground. But when it stands up, here it is. Here's the money shot of the Bigfoot here, not that kind of money shot. You see it. You see his arms. Here I am going to die here in a second.
Money shots in the other article.
Censored, of course. But yeah, you see his arms. You totally see his arms stick out.
Yeah,
It's not a bear. It looks like a bear when it's down. I would when I first saw it before I got to that part, I'm like, oh, that's a bear. But when it stands up, it's like, oh no, that's not a bear. What is that?
Yeah, that's not a bear.
And what I found funny is it seemed to be on the ground and digging low. You remember, it's like, I don't know, it's been 2 years ago, or I had a Bigfoot video where the people were driving by and they see this like creature, it could be a Bigfoot, whatever, like digging in the dirt, like in the background. I'm getting some echo, Jeff. I don't know if that's you.
It's a pretty good one.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's been very viral.
Like Harry and the Hendersons.
Great movie. My boys watched that after the first time they saw it like 6 times.
Yeah.
Dean's like, I want the monster. I'm like, he's a Bigfoot. He's not a monster. But, a 2-year-old perspective, I would, if you follow him out in the woods, you'd be like, yeah, he's a monster.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's move on. All right. This is this article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, especially since I can't hardly talk. But it's long. But I found this really interesting. This next one is it's from the conversation.com. How trippy 1980s video effect might help to explain consciousness. Explaining consciousness is one of the hardest problems in science and philosophy. Recent neuroscientific discoveries suggest that a solution could be within reach. By grasping it will mean rethinking some familiar ideas. Consciousness, I argue, in a new paper may be caused by the way the brain generates loops of energetic feedback, similar to video feedback that blossoms when a video camera is pointed at its own output. And I'm showing a video here. If you have epilepsy, you might want to back away from the video if you're watching. But this is video feedback. Now, I've seen different experiments of video feedback. It's one of the things I've never got to experiment with, to be honest, and I always wanted to. You kind of have to have like the old equipment to really make it work. The old video equipment and stuff and TVs to make it happen. What they do is they also feed in an audio. And so the images you're seeing here, and I think you can slightly hear the audio in the background Jeff's got going, there it is. The image reacts to the audio. Well, they believe consciousness could work this way in a kind of a feedback loop between itself, and that's how thoughts are generated. I thought it was a really interesting article. Like I said, it's from theconversations.com. Check it out. It says it started in the 1980s. You go ahead and cut the audio there, Jeff. It's going to be freaky. The guy who wrote this article says, I first saw the video feedback in the late 1980s and was instantly entranced. Someone plugged the signal from a clunky video camera into a TV and pointed the lens at the screen, creating a grainy, spiraling tunnel. Then the camera was tilted slightly, and the tunnel blossomed to a pulsating organic kaleidoscope. Video feedback is a classic example of complex dynamic behavior. It arises from the way energy circulating in the system interacts chaotically with electronic components of the hardware. Some people have used it for ITC and gotten some really crazy images of people and places and things and communication and alien communication. I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff from people experimenting with video feedback. And it's something I want to get into if I can get the right equipment to do it. I know our friend Rick Bunch, we do a good talk. It's a paranormal chat before the show at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can join us and listen to our conversations. I think he brought up in there that he had experimented with video feedback back in the day, too, and had some interesting results that I need to see, Rick, if you're listening.
I actually have the parts. I've had them for like 4 or 5 years now, and Jeff was going to help me put it together. I actually talked to Matt Payne, too. Yeah, and he's going to give me the specs how to loop it all through, but that's something I've been intrigued by, too.
It'd be cool if you could get it on a screen. Like you could show what it is during an ITC show.
Well, we even want to try to project. I mean, we've got like some ideas.
It'd be awesome to try to do it on an ITC show,
Exactly.
It'd be so cool. All right, well, let's move on. Go check this out. Definitely, if you're interested in these kind of ideas and consciousness, to me, consciousness is the most interesting topic. Everything, I think, revolves around it. But check it out at, what was that? I lost the site. Conversations.com. Go to conversations.com. How a trippy 1980s video effect might help to explain consciousness. All right.
I just watched They Live yesterday, and for some reason, it's reminding me of that.
Really? Oh, yeah, I guess. Great movie.
Consume, obey.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Favorite movie of all time, pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, moving on. Number 4. All right, daytime video of a UFO. We got some UFO stuff here. This is daytime video. This came from latestUFOsightings.net. Daytime video of UFO flying near a plane over Morenbrunn, I think, Germany, October 31st on Halloween. To me, the most scariest thing is being in a plane and seeing a UFO. Now, these people didn't see it. You might not see it either on the video if you're watching. It's very quick. It's very small, but it does go above the airplane. You see it fly up behind the airplane. So it's got to be way, way up there. And they have to be pretty big just to be able to see it. Jeff's trying to play it. I think you got to go back in the video. Yeah. Yeah, it's really small. It's really hard to see on here. There it goes, off to the side. They do a zoom in on it. There it is. Yeah. It just looks like a little white ball, but it's got to be way up there because it flies behind the plane. You'll see it go across the plane's path, but it's behind it. But yeah, the last thing I want to see being on a plane is a UFO out my window. As much as I'd love to see another UFO in my lifetime, I don't want to see it while I'm on a plane.
There's a man on the wing.
Yeah, I'm going to be Will Shatner. There's a UFO out there, Yeah, man on the wing. I'm like, just, go tell the pilot to make a sharp turn.
Yeah.
UFO? All right, let's move on. Go ahead.
I have a friend that is actually a commercial pilot, and we were talking one day, and I was like, "Hey, by the way, you ever seen any UFOs and stuff? Flying the plane?" And he's like, "I'm not allowed to talk about that."
Oh, come on!
I know. Now
we're friends, man.
I know. That's what I said, and he's like, "No," because the reason why is because if the pilot says, "Hey, I saw a UFO," then everybody will think he's crazy and might lose his job. So.
And that's happened. It's happened.
Yeah, it has.
And it's happened countlessly. And I think that's such crap. They should be reporting what they see up there. It's the danger to them, So a lot of these pilots see it and they never report it.
Yeah.
But actually is kind of breaking the law. I think you have to report it,
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let's move on. We got this next one I might probably kind of say I'm debunking because I've seen a lot of this. So it's a good possibility these are military flares, but it is interesting. The family in San Diego found themselves watching the sky and wonder after spotting a pair of puzzling orbs which seemed to be hovering in the air. The strange scene captured on film by Chris Wilson was posted on YouTube a few weeks ago and recently captured the attention of UFO enthusiasts online. According to Wilson, the sighting occurred in La Mesa, California, as he was watching the sunset. Here, go ahead and play the video.
Oh, what the hell? What? Dude, are you seeing this?
Man, I'll tell you one thing.
There's two. It stopped its free fall, and now there's two that just appeared out of nowhere.
But how are posters and copies?
Is anybody out here not filming?
I'm filming.
Are there any other adults?
Me?
Can you ask Jared if you have some binoculars?
Yeah.
Me too.
Dude, this is so weird.
Whatever they are, they're moving around.
Yeah.
For people watching, I have a zoom-in footage of this after it ends. It's hard to see because of the white and the way it comes across the screen, but the zoom-in should be able to show them. But they kind of like hover there. One kind of drops down, and then the other one just appears next to it. No drop, just comes out of nowhere.
They're just dimmed out.
Yeah, at first I was gonna say it looks like flares, but then when it stops, it's like,
I'll show you the video here.
I've seen some things that have been claimed to be flares when they seem to do hover there, though. I don't know how that works.
Yeah,
I don't know nothing
true.
about flares. Here it is. Yeah, it's the zoom in version. You see the first one, it's dropping down like it's falling from the sky. It's hard to see because of the white, how white it is, and the way the contrast is coming across on the video we're sharing. But then it stops, and then another one appears to its left. It's really weird. It's the only reason I showed it. I was like, maybe it's military flares? I don't know. It seems a bit odd. But like I said, it might be hard for the audience to see. Because I'm noticing on my end, the contrast makes it really hard to see. I don't even see the second one in this video on my screen. But yeah, you can check this out. Disclosure screens on Disclose Screen YouTube. Just put in Disclose Screen. You should be able to find the video. Let's see. Yeah, there it is again. So you see that one drop, and then another one appears next to it. It's really weird.
I'm getting it online.
All right, we're running out of time, though. We got to move on. So let's go to the next one. Next one. This one I can kind of want to say maybe debunk. I don't know if you guys remember. I did the cat one, the cat on the security, the ghost cat on security video, where I kind of explained it as the cat disappears, but it might be the way the video compresses to save memory. And I think this is what this is. Now, this creepy piece of security camera footage from a home in upstate New York shows some kind of figure running outside the house and seamlessly vanishing in the air. The odd video was posted to Reddit, of course, by a user explained that his friend installed a security system after his dog kept freaking out for no reason. When he checked the footage, the following incident happened. The man was taken back by what he saw, which is a figure running through his yard, and then he just like disappears. In the eerie footage, a strange figure can be seen hastily running through the man's backyard before disappearing in the darkness. At nearly the same time, the homeowner appears outside with a flashlight in an attempt to see what had been scaring his dog. Well, the only reason I would say maybe it's not the video compression is because it seemed to happen right as he was watching it. Usually it's when you go back to the saved file. Jeff, you might have knowledge of that. I don't know. He's nodded his head, yeah. So maybe it's video compression, maybe it's not. It's weird that he did see it and then he ran outside, to find out what it was. It's a bit, I'd be a little bit worried. Yeah, you do see his flashlight. He's going out there to look. I mean, it could be video compression that will do that, but you almost see like a mist coming in too from the snow. But it looks like he completely disappears.
He's got kind of a weird kind of stride about it too.
Yeah, running behind here though, so go check that out. All right, so the last one has been very viral, and I really struggled if I wanted to cover it on the World Wide Web of Weird, because to me it's really sad. But it's interesting. This woman fleeing demons in Memphis dies after crashing a stolen truck with a family inside from Atoka, I think I should say, Tennessee. And Atoka woman was killed in a wreck Monday after authorities said she stole a county-owned truck from Memphis, but put her daughter and adopted children inside and drove to Arkansas because they were possessed by demons. The Pulaski County Sheriff Office said 41-year-old Rosalind Craig was killed around 5:30 a.m. when the Chevrolet Silverado she was driving slammed head-on into a Union Pacific utility truck on a two-lane road north of Little Rock. A witness said Craig's truck crossed the center line. The Sheriff's Office said the passenger in Craig's truck indicated her daughter, a friend of her adopted children. They, along with the driver of the Union Pack truck, were taken to hospitals, but their injuries were not serious, but she did die. According to witnesses, Craig stole a Shelby County-owned truck with a government plate and then drove aimlessly through Arkansas. Craig told her passengers she was taking them on the other side of heaven to meet Jesus, and that they were leaving Memphis area due to being possessed by demons, according to witnesses. Craig's friends were stunned by the news. She loved her kids. This is not in her character. The Shelby County's office said that the truck was a non-emergency vehicle that was stolen around 11 p.m. I'm trying to get through this quick. Girls started talking about seeing ghosts and demons and stuff, and I think she just got in Rosalind's head. They're saying her friend put this in her head, but you got to do a lot more than get it into her head. Something's got to be going on. What I find so weird about this story is it doesn't seem like there was any prior history of mental unstableness. Everybody seems to be shocked that this happened. And even if she was demon possessed, doesn't seem like anybody had any signs or knowing about that going on. It's just a really sad and odd story. Luckily, the children weren't killed or hurt seriously. They said that their injuries were minor. It was just her. But it just seems so odd for somebody, maybe it's drugs. That's always a possibility. There's some really nasty, dangerous new drugs out there that can make people flip out, like Flocka, But it just doesn't seem like anything I read in the story would indicate that she would be doing any of that, that she had any prior mental illness. It just seemed like a really odd story, and I hope we find out more. Like I said, I really struggled covering this story because I find it so sad. I don't like, people call things demonic possession or more mental illness. And I've had a lot of people give me videos. Did you see this crazy person doing this? And I've never, I just stopped covering them on the World Wide Web of Weird because I'm like, I don't know if that's demonic possession or mental illness. And I'm not putting a video up there of somebody having a mental breakdown. It's not fair to them because they can't control what's happening to them. So can a demonic person, I guess you could say, too. But I don't know, if you know the difference sometimes. And I'm not going to say I'm an expert, too. So I do pass up a lot of some of these crazy videos of people acting crazy sometimes because, it just might not be demonic possession, might just be mental illness. But that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. We had a great guest, Margery Phelps, on the night to talk about reincarnation. If I can talk, we'll let her do most of the talking because she sounds like a really interesting guest. And, of course, we'll have the phone lines. You call in and help me host the show. You call in and ask questions. You help me because you can hear my voice is already going. But Jamie, Rob, you help me out. And like I said, we are on Late Night in the Millions Radio Network. Go donate, subscribe, do what you can to help keep this great network alive. We need you. Without your donations, without your subscriptions, we can't keep this great network going with so many great hosts, so many new shows coming to this network. We need you to help us out. All right, we'll be back with Margery Phelps, going to talk about reincarnation. And if you have had a reincarnation memory, I have. If you have, I'd love for you to call in tonight and share that with us. Or if you had a past life regression, call in. I'd love to hear about that. Or just believe you just have a knowing that you lived in a past life. I'd love to hear about it. All right, guys, we'll be back in just a few minutes after this short commercial break.
Rangery?
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Margery Phelps. Margery Phelps is a native of Atlanta, Georgia, where she majored in journalism at Georgia State University. She's the author of several health books, including New Life Naturally, The Home Guide to Harmonious Health, and Common Sense Medicine for Robert A. Nash, MD, 3 children's books, Harmony's House, a storybook to color, Mighty and Me, and The Rainbow Plate, and Halo's Glow. Her first novel, Chasing the Wind, is based on her real life and well-documented experiences with reincarnation. She also wrote a First Sight, the Shirl Jennings story, which is a biography of a man who was subject of the MGM motion picture At First Sight. Margery designed and co-wrote with Janiece C, Andrews, MD, a training manual for the MLM industry titled Downline Dynamics. In September 2010, Mrs. Phelps was a co-author of Juicy Joyful Life, an anthology of short stories by women writers. The book was a hot #1 bestseller on Amazon when it launched. Another short story, Mrs. Phelps' Where Did I Go?, was published in an ebook by Inspired Living Publishing. Mrs. Phelps is creator of a trademark cartoon character she uses to teach health and nutrition to children through her company, Glow Kids, and she's the co-founder of Apple Pie Books. In addition to writing, Mrs. Phelps has lectured throughout the United States and Canada on nutrition and wellness and the political health care. She resides at Lake Arrowhead, at a suburb of Atlanta, and has 2 grown children, 5 grandchildren, 8 godchildren. Her website is margeryphelps.com, findingmargaret.com, and CherokeeRosePublishing.com. Tonight we're going to discuss past life. I had a really good World Wide Web of Weird. I should have saved this one article I read about a past life, about a case, a famous case. if you can remember me talking about it when I had Heather Wade on, about a boy, he was born and had all these memories of being this German pilot, and then he ended up dying when he was in his 20s, being stabbed to death, and he ended up dying just like less than a mile away from where his reincarnation, his previous life, had died in the plane that he crashed in. I thought that was just such a life's a joke moment kind of thing, or surreal. The way life is, if reincarnation exists, man, that's messed up. We'll get into those kind of topics tonight, and you'll be able to call in, as always, into the show a little bit later. We want to give our guests some time to talk about this, but call in tonight. Let us know, did you have a reincarnation memory? I have. I'd love to hear about it. You can call in now. Phone lines are open. You just might have to wait. It's 219-230-4444. Skype ID OOJBland00. And there's the video live chat. I'd definitely wait to call in on that one. Is the Soup live chat, 800 live chat. But let's go ahead and get to our guest. You there with us, Margery?
I'm here with you.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I apologize for my really messed up voice tonight, or for any disgusting sounds I might accidentally make. I apologize in advance.
That's quite all right. We've all been down that road. We know how you feel. Just get to feeling better.
Well, I love this topic of reincarnation, and when I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this show, the last Sunday I was thinking this, because I know how I get sick like this, and it lasts for weeks. And I was like, who do I got on? I know I might not have a voice. And I looked and I'm like, oh, I can't cancel this show. I can't. So thank you for being on. Bear with me tonight. And like I said, I got Jamie and Rob here going to chip in on the conversation. Now, I gave a little bit of a introduction to you, but I'd like you to...
there?
Yeah, you hear me?
Jason, did I lose you?
I hear you. You don't
Hello?
hear... Uh-oh. Hold on. Let me try something.
She's got my problems now.
Oh, great. Do you hear me, Margery? You there, Margery? Hello? Margery, you there?
Looks like she's muted.
No, that's it. That's the wrong line. Let me...
Oh, okay, sorry.
Huh. That's weird. We had her working just fine before the show. Let me, I'm unplugging it. I'm going to plug it back in. Hold on. See. All right. You there, Margery? Hear me? Hello? That's really weird. All right, let me try calling her back. Let me try that. Let me try calling her back. It's really weird. It says user busy. That is so weird. She was just rolling fine before the show, and when we got her on, and then suddenly it's like she couldn't hear me, and then she was gone. And now it says user busy as I'm trying to call her. Let me check this. I have one other phone number for her.
Like Jamie says, bring on the weird.
Not tonight.
I know.
Try calling her cell.
At least not this early.
I know.
It's like 3 words, click.
Hopefully.
3 are dings.
Well, that is not good.
This is Margie. Sorry I missed your call. Leave a name.
Try calling the other number again.
Maybe she was abducted by aliens.
Hello?
You hear me, Margery?
And I don't know what happened. We were together, and all of a sudden we were no longer together.
Well, we could hear you for like a minute, less than, and then you were gone.
My goodness, I don't know. I was just sitting here holding the phone.
Uh-oh. Well, let's hope not. Let's hope. I tried calling your cell as a backup, but it just rang, so you might want to have that.
Sorry. Yeah, I left it in the other room because I was afraid it would ring while I was on the phone with you, and I didn't want to disturb it.
Yeah, I got you. But if I lose you again, go prepare to go grab that cell phone because we'll try that.
I will do that. I'll certainly do that.
Okay, what I was getting into before we got cut off for some weird reason, is, I gave you a little bit of an introduction, but I'd like you to tell the audience a little bit more about yourself and how you got involved in reincarnation.
Okay. Well, I think it's a kind of an interesting story. It actually started when I was about 3 years old. I had recurring dreams of this little lady, and she was always chasing me. I had a very distinct description of her. I knew exactly what she looked like. She was always the same. She was always wearing an apron. She had little glasses on, little beak-type nose, and she had her hair in a bun, and she was an older lady. And she was really kind, but she was always chasing me, saying, "Margery, sit down. I've got something important to tell you. I've got something important to tell you." Well, I was scared. I was a child having a dream, and it scared me, and I didn't want to sit down with this old lady. So that one dream is what makes my story unique, because that was a past life memory. Now, children don't know they're having past life memories. They just know that they're having this relationship with somebody. Not until they're older, at least, and can verbalize that maybe it was a past life. But I never forgot her. Most children forget their past lives. So, but I never forgot it. And through the years, as I aged and got involved in other activities of life, and going to college and getting married and having children, I would occasionally wonder who this little lady was. Why I had dreamed about her so much as a child. Well, I went back to college in my 40s to get an accounting degree. And I was sitting in class one night, and the professor came in. It was the first night of class, and he slammed a book down on the desk to get everybody's attention. And I was sitting right in front of his desk. And I looked up, and there was this little lady that I had dreamed about when I was a very young child. And I was flabbergasted. I mean, I was scared to death. I mean, she was as clear obviously it was a vision, but she was as clear to me as my computer is sitting here right in front of me.
So you saw her in the classroom, like it was like an
yes,
like an apparition, kind of.
Not an apparition. She was like real.
Wow.
And she was standing in front of this teacher, and she was holding her arms out in front of him, and she said very succinctly, "He's special. Protect him."
Oh, wow.
Now, all the years while I was growing up, because I had a lot of psychic experiences and I would know things before they're going to happen, my sister, I had an identical twin sister, Mary, and my sister used to say to me that these knowings that I would have were my special feelings. So the word special has a lot of meaning to me. So when this little lady stands in front of me, in front of this professor, and says, "He's special, protect him," it's like, oh my gosh, what in the world is going on? I mean, I thought I'd totally lost it. I thought, I've been under a lot of stress, and I thought, I've lost it. Well, to make a long story short, and I talk about it in my book, Finding Margaret, what all I went through, ultimately ended up working with a parapsychologist to resolve 2 years of very disturbing nightmares and dreams I was having about this teacher and about other situations in the city of Atlanta, which is my hometown. And, of course, everybody loves their hometown, so I was getting kind of desperate. What's going to happen in Atlanta? What's going to happen in Atlanta? I knew it was something foreboding. I just didn't know what it was. But long story short, I ended up working with a parapsychologist here in Atlanta, Dr. Paul Shank, who is very well respected in the Georgia Psychological Association and has done a lot of work in parapsychology. And
the name sounds familiar to me.
Yeah, Paul Shank, Dr. Paul Shank, Chenk. Yeah, he's fabulous. Anyway, so my first visit with him. Now during this period, this 2-year onslaught of dreams and nightmares about this teacher and other things in the city of Atlanta, I lost the use of my left arm.
Oh wow!
I was in excruciating pain. I had lost a lot of weight. I mean, I was like the life force was just draining out of me.
How old were you?
At that time, I was about 43 or 44.
Okay.
Yeah. So, my first session with Dr. Shank, I go in to see him, and it's obvious that I'm in distress, not only emotionally, but physically, too, because there's tremendous pain in my arm and my shoulder and this paralyzed arm that wouldn't work. And so he said, can I hypnotize you? And I said, he took my story down and wrote everything. And then he said, can I hypnotize you? I said, sure. And I thought he was just going to hypnotize me and try to give me some relief from the pain, maybe a subliminal message that would take away the pain, because nothing the medical doctors had done had worked.
Did they have any explanation for the pain?
No.
Oh, wow.
They didn't. And in the book, I describe exactly how we found what the real cause of the pain and what happened the next day at the neurosurgeon's office. But anyway, so he hypnotizes me. I go into hypnosis trance very easily. And I asked me to go to the source of the pain. And the next thing I know, I'm envisioning myself in this little town called Thompson, Georgia. Oh, wow. And I am talking in the voice of this little old lady that I had seen in the vision that I had dreamed about in my childhood. And I was so confused. I thought, I knew all about her husband. I knew all about her children. She had 10 children. Most had passed in early childhood. But I just knew so much about her. I knew about her feelings and her thoughts, and I just felt like I was talking like her. Well, she didn't really get me to the source of the pain, but that was the unfolding of finding the past life that had generated the pain and the disability in my arm. So he made a lot of notes, and he tape recorded it, and he also videotaped it. He does a lot of documentation.
Well, when you wake up, do you remember everything you were?
I remember everything.
You do remember everything when you wake up, because in Hollywood they make it sometimes look like they don't, or I some people they make them dance like a chicken and they wake up and they don't remember it.
Right? Yeah. No, I remember everything, even to this day, all these years later. Now
that's awesome. That's why I've always wanted to have it done. I've always wanted to do a past life regression. I always wanted to have it. I never have, but I've always been interested.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the things I tell people in my book. I say, don't rely on a psychic or a medium to do your past life work.
Right.
It's something it's personal to each person, and you have to do it yourself with an expert in the field, a hypnotist who's trained in past life regressions, or a parapsychologist like I was fortunate enough to work with, someone like Dr. Brian Weiss. And believe it or not, there's a lot of medical doctors that are getting into past life regressions because of their own experiences, like Dr. Weiss. Yeah. So when he brought me out of the trance, he said, "Who was that little lady?" And I said, "I have no idea, but she's the same lady I dreamed of in my childhood." He thought that was very interesting. I said, "So who was she?" He said, "I want you to think about it for a week, and I'll see you next week." Well,
I'll leave you with this.
Jason, I went home and I thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be committed. I really thought that I was going to be committed. That weekend, I had to go to my precious goddaughter's big wedding up in Virginia. And the whole weekend, I walked around thinking that there's this big scarlet letter stamped on my forehead. Crazy. It was terrible. Anyway, I went in the next week, and he said, "So have you figured out who that little lady is?" I said, "I have no idea, but I'm scared to death that she's invaded my soul. Why would I know all this stuff about somebody that died before I was even born?"
What did you know about reincarnation before this point?
Well, my mother believed in reincarnation, but it was nothing that we ever really talked about. Looking back on it, I can see that she raised my brother and my twin sister and me with a lot of the ways a parent that believes in reincarnation would. And we can get into that in a few minutes. Okay. But we never really talked about it, except for she said that we're eternal and she believed in reincarnation. The church doesn't teach it. I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
The church doesn't teach it, so we didn't talk about it because we were very devout. When the church doors were open, we were there. So it wasn't something that we openly talked about.
It's definitely not a common belief within Christianity, no.
It's more and more people are coming to accept it.
Yeah, I agree.
More people are coming in touch with their eternal selves. So Dr. Shank asked me the next week, going back, "Who's this lady?" I said, "I have no idea." And he said, "Let me ask you something." He said, "Do you believe in eternal life?" And I said, "Well, sure I do. I'm a Christian. I believe in eternal life." And he said, "Does that mean you've always been and you always will be?" And I said, "Well, yes, that's my understanding of eternity." He said, "So where did your soul come from?" And I said, "Well, I guess God created my soul when my mother was pregnant and put my twin sister and me in those little bodies inside of her." And he said, "So you're not eternal. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, if you were only created to be in this entity that you're in right now, then you're not eternal. You haven't always been, right? And I said, well, I never looked at it like that. He said, but you believe in eternal. You're eternal. I said, yes. He said, so tell me, where have you been? And that was an aha moment.
That was the beginning, right, for you.
Yep.
I was going to say, my first roommate I ever had was, I wouldn't say he was a devout Christian or anything like that, but, he was raised in a pretty conservative Christian family. And, we'd talk at night, and I'd, tell him about my crazy beliefs, and I was known as Crazy Jay to a lot of my friends. But I would talk about, I remember one conversation about reincarnation. He's like, I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. He's like, we are who we are. Our memories make us who we are. And he's like, it just doesn't fit into my concept. I just don't see how it's possible, because if you don't remember who you are, then what's the point? Because you are your memories. And my point to him was, I'm like, well, if I hit you over the head and you wake up tomorrow and you got amnesia, is Chris gone? That was his name. Sorry, Chris. I'm like, are you gone? You're still you, but you just don't remember who you are.
Excellent analogy. I love that.
I don't know if that was his aha moment. He probably still doesn't believe, but that was my best at trying to get somebody that was, a Christian to have that aha moment. But he hasn't experienced it like you. He didn't have this hypnotism and this effect. I had that experience, Margery, in a dream, 2 different separate dreams that I really deeply believe are past life memories. They you wake up from them, and it's just the emotion was so strong. So thick, but you were I was a little black girl. People laugh at that. You can laugh at all you want, but that's just the truth of it. I was a little black girl who got beat to death by and I knew it's like you suddenly have this knowing when you're there. You're them, and everything that's going on around there, you pretty much know. I knew my mom and me were slaves, and the guy that owned us was sleeping with my mother, and I think he was my father, if I understood it. And he beat me to death with a broom handle, and it was such an emotionally charged dream. When I woke from that, I was in sweats, and it scars me. I woke from that dream knowing I just witnessed something, and I knew that was a past life.
Oh, definitely. That's one of the clues to unlocking our past lives. That especially the very profound ones where you die traumatically. That's a classic case of a past life memory.
Now,
and so many people have them, but it hasn't been part of the normal dialogue.
Yeah,
People like me. Now I'm going to be 74 in a few weeks. People like me have had these experiences all our lives, but we've been put to shame so much for trying to talk about them that we haven't. Thank goodness the Spirit is moving us toward an open dialogue where people say, "Yeah, I had an experience like that."
Oh, yeah.
I've had experience. This is what I dreamed. This is, we're all like that.
See, I was lucky to have the dream, and I already had an open concept of the idea, so I recognized it for what it was when it happened. But you got to think how many people have these kind of dreams and write about like, wow, that was a crazy dream.
Exactly.
And they never talk about it.
Yeah, that's why shows like this are important, where people can be exposed to it. Say, wow, because doesn't it give you a deeper understanding of what's going on in the human condition?
Oh, yeah.
To have that knowledge.
It could explain so much with people. People's conditions and phobias and just why we do things we do. It would explain a lot.
It does. For example, when I see somebody that's extremely heavy or morbidly obese, what my first thought is? That's a soul that starved in a prior life.
Yeah, that's a good one.
They were so starved that they can't get enough to eat in this life. But when you take it to a higher level and look at what their soul's schooling is for this lifetime, maybe it's to learn temperance.
Yeah.
So whenever I see somebody struggling with something, I say, maybe they're dealing with this, or maybe they're dealing with that. I don't judge, but what it allows me to do is to accept that person for exactly where they are and for who they are without judging them. That's not a fat lady. That was a skinny person in a prior life, and now she's satiating the need to eat. over-satiating it, but still.
That makes a lot of sense.
Changes perspective with people.
Yeah, I've thought about a lot of these concepts of how they could affect people. That's one I didn't even think of. Like a heavy person might be that way because, yeah, they were a starving Ethiopian kid or something. I mean, like they knew real hunger. And when they came back here, they're like, I am eating, and I'm eating good. I don't care how big I get.
Exactly.
Starving Marvin from Southburg. Yeah, she probably won't get that reference.
So when you look at all the different conditions people have, all the different phobias, all the different physical challenges or emotional challenges or mental challenges, financial challenges, most of them can go back to a past life or something that they've chosen for this life that they want to learn to deal with.
When you talked about, don't trust a psychic, go figure it out. Not to say you don't trust psychics, but, don't trust a psychic to tell you about your past life. Go do hypnotherapy or look deeply within. I did have a psychic on the show, Lori Johnson, and she did get me a little bit because you talk about phobias. One of my earliest memories is me being this phobia coming about was me when I was not even one. My mom took me I think I was maybe just one. She took me to a swimming thing, and I remember them dunking me underwater, and I freaked out, like all the she had to get me out of the whole pool area, get me away from the water because I freaked out the moment she did it. But I've always had a fear of water. I'm not a great swimmer. I don't enjoy swimming. I just don't. I don't like big bodies of water, not even big pools, but I really don't. I fear drowning. And Lori Johnson just suddenly out of nowhere goes, "Oh, you had a past life, I see. And I see you were on a boat, a sailor. She's like, there's a picture of you out there somewhere on this boat, and in a black and white old picture, and this boat went missing in the Bermuda Triangle." And I'm like, well, that would explain a lot. My fear of water and my undying passion for the idea of places where people disappear. Since I can remember as a kid, I was fascinated with the Bermuda Triangle and anything about time slips or people disappearing. Always fascinated with it, and I was like, that would explain a lot.
But see, she was validating something you already knew.
Yeah,
and that's good. That's good. I mean, you knew you were afraid of water. She probably picked up, if she's a psychic. I mean, I pick up on things to people because I've had a lot of paranormal experiences. She picked up on that fear and was able to hone in on it. But when I tell people not to go to a psychic for a past, let me give you an example. Okay, I did all this past life work for over 2.5 years with Dr. Shank. Mm-hmm. It was well documented. It was tape recorded. It was, we went back and found old records and stuff like that. I've even got a picture of myself at Margaret's grave over in Thompson, Georgia. But then I moved to Virginia. I had the opportunity to work in Virginia near the coast. I was living in Hampton. I was working in Newport News. Well, anybody that knows Virginia area knows that that's where the Casey Institute is.
Oh, yeah, Edgar Casey.
Down at Virginia Beach. So guess where I went all the time? I went down to Virginia Beach. I went to the Casey Institute.
I want to go there so bad. That's definitely one of those things on my bucket list. That's somebody else I was completely fascinated with since my mom told me the story of Edgar Casey when I was a little kid. And I've been completely fascinated by the Sleeping Prophet. And I've always wanted to see the Casey Institute. Yeah, I don't. There's some connection to that. Maybe I got a reincarnation connection to Edgar Casey because, man, that's just something that just the moment I first heard the story of the Sleeping Prophet, I was hooked.
Right. Well, I think a lot of us are.
Yeah.
Because the first time I ever heard of Edgar Casey, when my brother was taking a psychology class in college, and we would sit around the dinner table and talk, and he was talking about all these fascinating stuff he was learning in psychology class about Edgar Casey. And as soon as he said that name, it was like, wow, I can relate to that. But anyway, so I had done all this past life work, and I had it all documented, and so then I moved to Virginia, and it's a hotbed of psychics up there, and a couple of my girlfriends up there said, we're going to a psychic. You need to go with us. I said, okay. And I said, what are we going to do? Come talk about it. And they said, oh, she does, this psychic does past lives. We'll tell you all about your past lives. Well, so I had never told them that I had done past life work. So I go in there, happy and go lucky. Oh, tell me about my past lives. Not one thing they told me was accurate.
Because you already knew yours.
So we
You
left,
already
and I
looked
said,
into
"What'd
it.
you think?" I said, "Well, it was kind of interesting." I still didn't tell him I had already done my past life work. A few months came by, and somebody else was coming in town. They said, "Oh, we got to go see this past life, this person. They're excellent. They're excellent." Went and they told me something totally different. It was still wrong. So that's why I tell people you have to do the work yourself. You can get help with it. You know, like you had, I feel like that psychic was really validating
Right.
where your fear came from. That's a little bit different. Does that make sense?
No, it totally makes sense.
Rather than somebody just say, this is how you are because of your past life.
Yeah, I mean,
This
she's
is
just
what
throwing
it
out,
was. Well, no,
out.
not necessarily.
Yeah, she's just throwing out stuff out there, and I say the psychic could just tell you anything, like, oh, you were King Arthur in a past life,
Yeah, I can hardly hear you, Jason.
Oh no.
Oh no, am I losing you?
Not again. You hear me?
Can you hear me?
Oh no, it happened again.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. You don't hear me?
Jason, can you hear me?
Oh no. Let me try this again.
That is just bizarre.
It is.
This is like a new one.
I know. You there, Margery? You there, Margery?
Hello?
Hello? She don't hear me. That's
She
so
hear me?
weird. So weird. Like we were talking and then we lose her. You hear me, Margery?
I can't hear you.
All right, let's hang up. Call her back. And then it tells me user busy because she's still on the line.
That's a new one.
Let's try calling her cell. So weird. I hope it's not my connection.
Can you hear me now?
Try calling her cell.
Hello?
Hello, you hear me, Margery?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, same thing happened again.
Do what?
I said the same thing happened again. We could hear you, but you couldn't hear.
I'm having trouble hearing you. I'm having trouble hearing you.
Oh, no. Hold on a second. Let me see. Let me try something. You hear me now, Margery?
Yeah, I can hear you, but just barely.
Just barely. Wow.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine.
Wow. Something must be on the incoming line because
I hear
Technical
both
problems.
of you really clear.
Yeah.
yeah, I can hear you, Jamie.
You just can't hear me very well.
Jason, are you there?
See, now she doesn't hear me.
I can't hear Jason at all. I can
Oh.
hear Jamie.
Damn it. Something with
Can you
my
hear me,
end
Margery?
then.
Yes, I can. Is
Okay.
that Rob?
Yeah,
Yep,
that's
that's me.
Rob. We're working
Weird.
on it.
Okay.
We're experiencing technical difficulties.
You can continue if you wanted to continue what you're
let's see.
talking about. Well,
Can you hear me now, Margery?
Oh, okay. Well, yes. Are you there, Jason?
You hear me now?
Yeah, it's a little bit better. It's not
Oh.
real clear, but not real loud. But I can hear you.
As long as you can hear me. Okay, sorry. But something on my end. It's not you. It's me. I don't know what's going on with one of my connections that's screwing it up. Oh, boy. But you can hear me at least a little bit. At
That's
least.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So sorry, interruption there, but we were talking. One of the things I wanted to get to too was you meant now. Did you were able to identify the person you were in a past life, but who they were and everything? Found who they found their grave.
Yes. There's a picture of me at her grave on my website and also on the back of my book, Finding Margaret.
That's incredible.
It's kind of interesting because that little I had never been to that little town before. I'd heard of it because I used to work with an attorney who was from that town. And as soon as he told me he was from Thompson, Georgia, I was just fascinated with the town. Didn't know why I was so obsessed with finding out about this town. But it was always asking him questions about his hometown. Well, then after I did the past life work with the parapsychologist, and he wanted to know where I was, I said, I'm in a farmhouse in Thompson, Georgia. It just blew me away. I thought, my goodness, Years ago, I worked for an attorney who was from Thompson, Georgia. Isn't that interesting? Well, my daughter started going to college. She went to Georgia Tech, and she started dating this wonderful young man that we were all crazy about. Guess where he was from?
Same town.
Thompson, Georgia.
Wow.
Never, ever would have gone there had my daughter not married a man from there. So we go over to meet his parents, who are wonderful. His mother is pretty much an expert on the subject of reincarnation. I've never met anybody that knows more about reincarnation than Louisa.
So it's like you were meant to find her.
Oh yeah, we were meant to. We know Louisa and I know we've been together in a past life.
That's what I was wondering.
So at my daughter's Mother's Day celebration after our grandson was born, we were sitting out by the lake and having a picnic, and Louisa said, "Margery, it's time for you to put Margaret behind you. You need to get on with your own life." Well, it was interesting that she said that to me, because that was almost word for word what Margaret had said to me. And one of my last regression therapies with my psychologist. She said, "You need to get Margaret behind you so you can get on with your own life." She said, "Let's go find her grave, prove to everybody she's there, and you can move on." So we actually got in the car, and she said, "Where do you think she is?" I said, "She's in the old cemetery downtown, the Methodist church."
You knew where she was?
So she drove me to the Methodist church, and she said, "Well, I guess we need to start near the front." I said, "No, we need to go back to the back by the big oak tree." And Louisa said, I'm gonna look down here first, because this is the time period where all those people were buried. I said, "Well, I'm going back up to the oak tree because it's hot and I'm tired." And there she was. There was Margaret's grave.
What was that like, seeing her grave?
Relief.
Yeah.
Profound relief. That was like the last validation I needed to say that everything I had been saying for years was true.
Now, did you ever search out any of her relatives?
I've tried to find out more about her through Ancestry.com. I would not ever want to contact her relatives.
Yeah, I wondered.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, on the picture that I've published of me at her grave, it's a very impressive grave that she's in. Very, very large tombstone. I photoshopped out her name so that people would not know.
I wouldn't blame you.
The full family name. I mean, they're entitled to their privacy.
Yeah.
You know, I've got from it what I need. You know, it validated dreams I'd had all my life of this little lady.
Are any of her children still alive? I mean, how long ago was it for her? I mean, when she passed?
She passed in 1942, and I was born in 1944.
Wow, so it was only 2 years.
Right.
Apart.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes souls will reincarnate very quickly, especially if they've died traumatically.
Oh.
Others say, you know, it's somebody. I read something the other day because I'm active in a lot of these sites where people post stuff that says, "Oh no, you can't reincarnate for 100 years." That's some hooey that somebody made up. I mean, there is so much bad stuff out there. Somebody says you reincarnate with the same face. No, you don't. There's one website where they've got these famous people matched up to current incarnations. That's a bunch of hooey too. One of them's on there that has somebody's reincarnated from Howard Hughes.
Oh.
This man was born before Howard Hughes died.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I know what you're talking about.
You have to be so careful. You know, you just can't believe everything that's out there.
Well, I believe you don't come back with the same face because, like I said, one of my first, I've had 2 reincarnation dreams that I can totally qualify as I think were past lives. And one I was a black girl, the other one I was a Buddhist monk. Neither of those, don't look like either of those people, I don't think.
Right. No, definitely not. Now, but the interesting thing about it is, and Dr. Ian Stevenson did a lot of research on this for years. He was at the University of Virginia. He went all over the world. There's many, many, many documented cases of children being born with a scar from a past life injury.
Oh, yeah.
Now, my grandson has one. He was here a few weeks ago. He's 24 now. he pulled up his shirt, and he's got this little brown mark on his chest. He said, Nana, do you think this is a scar? He's had it there all his life. He said, this is the scar where the Indian shot me with an arrow.
Oh, wow.
I said, yeah, probably was, Andrew.
Well, I always wondered that, like birthmarks and stuff, are those possible marks from your past life showing up now in a birthmark or something?
Mm-hmm. Many of them are, according to Dr. Stevenson's research, which has now been picked up by Carol Bowman, who was one of his proteges. And Carol Bowman's done a lot of work.
Well, the story, we covered a story a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, why didn't I save it for this on our World Wide Web of Weird News segment about a classic case where a boy, or when he was a kid, would talk about dying as a German pilot in World War II, and he talked about his leg getting severed off in the plane, and he had a birthmark right there on his leg where he said he got, I got severed. It's so interesting that would carry over through the flesh like that it somehow that works, that the imprint. It makes you wonder about your own marks you have on your body,
Exactly. Right. Well, I think one of the reasons it's happening, and I think it appears to be, it probably always has happened, but people are starting to recognize it more now, is because we do have this movement getting back toward spirituality, where people recognize them as they are eternal, and this is one way of saying, oh, yeah. Now, one of my godchildren siblings had when he was a little boy, had very clear memories of dying in a plane crash.
Oh God!
And he told my girlfriend Leslie, he said, "Mom," he said, "I chose you to be my mommy." He said, "And in my past life, I was your daddy, and I died in a plane crash."
Oh wow!
And her father was a test pilot for the story is in my book, Finding Margaret, the full story. Her daddy was a test pilot for the Air Force, and he did die in a plane crash.
Wow. And he didn't know anything about that as a little kid?
No, she never talked about it.
Because that'd be what a skeptic would say. They'd say, oh, well, you heard it from the parents, and it's just his imagination.
She would never talk about her daddy.
Well, of course.
She was 14 when it happened. She's a twin like I was.
So it's for something like that. I mean, you think, my children, if there's there's a lot of people. There's people I've met in my life. I'm like really get that connection, and you wonder if you knew them in a past life. I can't tell that with my children, because the love is so there, it's so strong. But I could believe it that I knew my children somehow in a past life. But the fact that her father came and reborn as her son, that seems like a really crazy dynamic.
No, it happens all the time.
Wow.
And Carol Bowman writes a lot about it in her books. Return from Heaven is one of them. Carol Bowman's book, Return from Heaven, where children talk about coming back into the same family. And we now know that many children, a child will die, early in life, and will immediately come back to that same family.
Yeah, I've heard those stories.
She's putting the research together to document it. It's not just hearsay stories. It's getting information from the child and from the families, and children being born at early ages knowing things. There was a case of a little boy who he was the grandfather of this woman, and he passed on, as I like to say, crossed the bridge. It's just one bridge. We go back and forth between earth and eternity all the time, so I call it crossing the bridge. He crossed the bridge, and she missed her grandfather, and several years later had a baby. And when the baby was about 3 years old, he said, I want my watch. And she said, what are you talking about? He said, I gave you my watch before I died, and I want my watch.
Oh, my God.
Well, how would a 3-year-old know about that?
Right. Wow. Yeah, I mean, where would he get that from? Nowhere. I mean, he wouldn't know.
Exactly.
That, it just seems like such a crazy dynamic, though. Like I'm your father, and then I'm reborn, and now I'm your son.
Well, they say we repeat in the same groups of souls.
Yeah.
And that's why I call in my new workbook on reincarnation called Crossing the Bridge, I think I sent you a copy of it.
Yes, you did. Yeah, I wanted to do the workbook before you came on the show. I've been so sick this week, it just didn't happen. But I did look it over, and I love the beginning of it because you put forth the questions. Do you believe you are eternal?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Right from what my psychologist said to me.
Yep.
Right what he asked me. I just turn around and ask the same questions to other people. That are, that want to, a lot of people don't. I mean, there's a lot of people that call themselves Christians and say that reincarnation's not real, and my challenge to them is, so where have you been?
If you're eternal, yeah.
And they say, well, it's only one life. I said, one eternal life. Remember, the Bible talks about things regarding the soul. Sure, it gives us a lot of information about how to care for the human body. A lot of the Bible does that. And how to watch our minds and what we say and what we speak and how we treat other people. But it's about living eternally.
I always thought there's a lot of hints in the Bible to reincarnation. And, later on I learned in life that there was stuff in the Bible about reincarnation, but they kind of took it out.
Yeah, the Council of Nicaea, I believe 69 AD, they took it out because they realized if you believe in reincarnation, you realize that you have a responsibility for your own life and that you can't lay it off on somebody else. And by following somebody else's rules, it's not going to, quote, save you.
It kind of takes the fear of hell and damnation away.
Right. So we create our own reality. And, of course, there's a lot of schools of thought that say that when we go to the other side, when we cross the bridge, we take a rest for a while, and then we come back, and we have certain life lessons to learn. That's what Dr. Brian Weiss writes a lot about in his books.
You know the movie What Dreams May Come?
I beg your pardon?
You know the movie What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams?
Oh, yes.
The original edit before I think they released it in other parts of the country with the original edit, and then America, we got the edit where they kind of cut out all the reincarnation stuff at the end of the movie.
Exactly.
They just thought, well, they don't want to see that over there in the West. I thought that was really crummy because I liked the original edit before they cut all that out with the reincarnation.
Well,
at the end of that.
Yeah, because see, if you believe in reincarnation, believe your soul is eternal, you believe that you determine your own destiny. It's not up to living up to some religious law that some monk sitting in the basement of a building in a long robe wrote 1,000 years ago.
Exactly.
I don't want to sound like I'm anti-religion. I'm not. I'm a devout Christian, but the religions have gone overboard with telling people how to live their lives. If we all lived to our highest and best good, there would be no war, there would be no famine, there would be no, we wouldn't have a lot of the problems we've got now. The problems that we have on Earth right now are all ego-centered.
Oh, yeah. You talk about war.
Mine, yeah.
Oh, yeah. When you talk about war, one of the things I remember is in Germany, a lot of the people, like you had the Thal Society, and you had a lot of historic people, a lot of historic ideas propping up in pre-Nazi Germany about these kind of concepts. They were actually open to these concepts. A lot of people were interested in it. And some people thought that the soldiers of the Nazi Third Reich were the reincarnated souls from World War I. That they came back, that this whole army and all these people, and this was like all related to World War I. I always thought that was interesting.
Oh, that is an interesting theory.
Because, look, World War I, Germany lost, and a ton of Germans died. And then not long later, and enough time for these people to grow up and be teenagers, they could be fighting in World War II.
Well, yeah, it's from 1914 when it ended until around 1934. They'd be around 20 years old when all that happened. Yeah. Oh, that's a good theory. I never thought about that.
Yeah. I want to say Eckhart or somebody who was involved in the Thal Society with Hitler had this belief that the Germans would return for vengeance in a way with these reincarnated souls of the German soldiers.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Yeah. Well, you see where that got them.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't
make the same mistake twice.
Good to kill people.
Yeah. But it makes you wonder when you have this kind of loss of life on these scales, what that does to the flux, or what happens with the reincarnation. So much lost life happens in one short period of time.
Right. Yeah.
What always makes me think a lot of times is if I go to a new place that I've never been before and I have this moment of clarity or deja vu, whatever you want to call it, where I know where everything is. I know what's right around the corner. I've been there before, but yet I've never been there.
I've had that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, they call that, yeah, you named it right, what they call it, deja vu. I say it's past life memory.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to Ireland years ago, went to Dublin. People would actually stop me on the street and ask me where things were. That's how much I fit into Dublin.
So that was another past
and
life.
I was American tourist over there by myself. Oh, can you tell me where such and such? I say yes.
How many, Margery? How many past lives have you discovered?
About 7.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Going back to 5 to 4 AD.
Whoa.
I mean BC.
Still, even then.
yeah. 59 AD was Vesuvius erupted.
Oh.
And that was extremely traumatic. And
so you were at Pompeii?
Pompeii, right.
Oh, my God.
The interesting thing about that, I lived in Germany for 3 years in the 60s. So I was in my mid-20s, early to mid-20s.
Yeah.
And my husband and I had a trip to Italy. In fact, we had a couple of trips to Italy. And we went to Pompeii. And when we got to Pompeii, now there weren't millions of tourists there like there are now. There was just a few. In fact, in our tour group, there were 5 people. It was so we had free reign of the city. We could just run around. I knew everything was. I mean, it was like I knew. And then we got to this one house. Now, you know how the people were vaporized, and the archaeologists later found out that if they would pour plaster down into these places, they could make a mold of the person that was there, the entity that was there.
Yeah.
Well, we got to this one house, and there was this mother holding a child in a corner, all cuddled together down the corner. And I looked at my husband and said, there I am. Now, this is before I knew anything about reincarnation.
Oh, this is before all this.
He looked like, you're crazy. What do you mean, there you are? Yeah, well, and I just had to blow it off. I couldn't think about it anymore.
And just something came out of your mouth when you saw it?
That image never left my mind. I knew that that's where I had died.
But when you saw it, it just came out of your mouth, that's me?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
There I am.
And those are some, when you look at the Pompeii, the archaeological digs, and them doing those plaster molds like that, it's such a creepy, sad, feeling when you look at those pictures. To connect with it and feel like you've been there, that's got to be pretty powerful.
It was, but you know what? It wasn't sad to me. I didn't feel. I mean, I felt a sense of loss. It's a tremendous loss of life, for the people there. But I was more fascinated with seeing it. It was like I was seeing everything again. Just like Rob was just saying, you go to a city you've never been to before, and you turn a corner and you recognize everything. It's like an aha.
I remember the first time I had that happen to me. I mean, I had deja vu and stuff, but the first time I went to a place, I'm like, I've been here before, was my grandmother's family's place up in Minnesota. And me and my stepdad, we both, when we got out of the car and got there, he kind of looked around and I looked around, and we both kind of said at the same time, it's like, God, this is like deja vu, like I've been here before. We both had that. And so it makes me wonder, like my stepdad, is he somebody we knew each other in my grandmother's family line somehow, and that's how we come back. It's just, it's so many connections we might not even know about. But we do got to go to commercial break, and I would like to talk about some of your other past lives you discovered, because it's so fascinating to me, the soul's journey, from being different people, and you move on and start a whole different life. It's so fascinating to me. And of course, people, if you have had your own past life memory, please call into the show tonight, 219-230-4444, or Skype ID 00JBland00, or Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat is the video Skype ID. You can call in, phone lines are open, and we will start taking phone calls after this commercial break. I'd love to hear anybody else who has had their experiences or feel like they've had a past life experience, or not sure. Maybe Margery's the person to talk to tonight to help you find out if that was really a past life memory you think you might have had, or knowing. All right, guys, we'll be back after the short commercial break. And don't forget to go Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Donate, subscribe, do what you can to help keep this great radio network going and all these great hosts. Without you, we would not have this network. So please donate, subscribe now. All right, we'll be back after this short commercial break.
Seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time. Like tears in rain. Time to die.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Margery Phelps. We're talking about reincarnation and past lives. I'm your host, Jason Bland. This is Paranormal Soup if you're just tuning in. If you've had a reincarnation experience, I'd really love for you to call in. If you had past life regression, or did you have a dream like I did? I had two of them that made you think, was that a past life? Well, tonight's the night to call in. The phone lines are open. You can call in at 219-230-4444. That's 219-230-4444. You also can call in at Skype ID 00JBland00. And then we also have, finally, we got it working, is the Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat. That's a video Skype call in. I mean, actually see you. The audience can see you. You can call in on that. But tonight, call in if you got that reincarnation experience or something you believe or just a knowing. Some of these stories you hear that people just knew. So let's get back to our guest. All right. Hopefully you can still hear me, Margery. You there?
Yes, I'm here, and I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. I think it was a connection I had. I kind of hit some of my wires, and was that. So tell us a little bit while I go and try to clear my throat here, because, man, that frog in my throat's getting me right now. Tell me a little bit about some of the other past lives you've discovered. I'm so interested to hear, who was Margery Phelps in other lives?
Oh, okay. Well, prior to my incarnation as Margaret in the little farmhouse in Thompson, Georgia, I was a little girl who lived out in the Great Plains, Wyoming, a place called Goshen. And that was the past life that led to the loss of use of my left arm after I met the teacher. So after that happened and we started putting all the pieces together, I thought, I really need to be more involved in this because we've got this all pretty well documented. And if this happened to me, I am not unique. This is happening all over the world. People are having all sorts of traumas that they can't account for. They don't understand why these things are happening. And as Margaret told me in one of my trance sessions, had I not had the physical problem that I had that led me to the neurosurgeon, that I would have been improperly diagnosed as insane.
Well, how did meeting this person trigger that the paralyzation in your arm and the medical condition? How did that happen?
Well, of course, most of our cases of reincarnation, most of the traumatic experiences happen with people we've had experiences with before.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, it was traumatic for me to meet that teacher in this life, but it was triggered by a traumatic experience in a past life. So what happened was in that life, I was a little girl about 9 or 10 years old, and she lived near the prairie, and it was springtime, and she was out picking berries, the berries that bloom real early, with her baby brother, who was about 3. And our mother said that we could go out and pick berries, but not get near the river, because the river was flooding with the spring thaw.
Right.
Well, of course, the toddler ran over to the river, and my entity, Justine, chased after him, and the edge of the river caved in, and he fell in, and she was trying to reach him as all this debris from the winter thaw, the winter melt was coming down this river, and she was hanging on to the root of a tree sticking out. You know how a root will stick out of the bank of a river? She was hanging on with her left arm, reaching into the river, trying to catch him with her other arm. And she hung there for a long time screaming. And finally this big arm reaches down and pulls her up, and he's gone. And that was the teacher.
Oh, wow.
That's why in this life I was told I had to protect him. The interesting thing about this is, after I had that session with Dr. Shank, and he, like I say, he audio recorded it and video recorded it, so it's well documented when I said that. The very next day, I had another appointment with my neurosurgeon, and he sent me in the building where he was downstairs for physical therapy to see a physical therapist. And the physical therapist was training a new girl. And they were going through my records when I got there. And my physical therapist was talking to this new girl that she was training, and she said, Margery is a very interesting case. She doesn't have use for right arm. She says she's had no trauma. I mean, left arm. She's had no use of her left arm. She says she's had no trauma. But actually, the injury that we're really treating her for is like if she had been hanging by her arm for a long period of time.
Wow.
Well, it was documented in my records, which she said that day, and the prior day was when I had told Dr. Shank that Justine was hanging on. So that explained everything. And guess what? My arm started getting better.
It's like as soon as you addressed it or saw the memory, it kind of like let it go.
It started getting better. The pain started getting better. Now, it took a full year for complete recovery because, and I've heard of people that have a past life trauma and they have a spontaneous recovery. But in my situation, it had gone on for 2 years, and there was already so much nerve damage to my physical body. It wasn't just pain. It wasn't just the loss of the use of my arm. It was really in bad shape. So it took me about a year to recover, but I made a full recovery.
Do you think if you had never gotten involved in the hypnosis and looking deeply into your past lives, you would have just been stuck with that nerve pain and that injury for the rest of your life?
Probably. That's
a scary thought, Margery. That's a really scary thought.
That's why I feel like my work is important, because people need to recognize this is going on.
No, definitely, because it could explain so many problems. Some people just weird things pop up medically, and they just can't explain it. It could revolutionize medicine if they actually looked into it. Now, Margery, I want to continue talking about more of your past lives, but I do have people that are waiting on hold to call in. Are you all right taking a couple calls right now?
That'd be great.
Okay. I know we got Laura Lee on the video chat. Hold on, Laura Lee. It should work. Just wait. Not you yet, though, because we got somebody else holding on phone and called in first. So, all right, we should have Zach on the line. How you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm doing pretty good, brother. How about yourself?
Oh, I've been better. I've been better, but you always have great questions, so I'm looking forward to this. So what's your question for our guest tonight?
I just have one question, and then I'll share my alleged past life experience.
All right.
I have. Margery, very nice talking to you. Very nice to meet you. My question to you is, do many of us share really physical character traits that we possess in a past life? Like, say, for example, I love spicy food, for example, and I also love smoking cigars. Does that mean in a past life that I necessarily had those likes, had those character traits in a past life? Why or why not?
Oh, yes, very definitely. As a matter of fact, some of those traits, the ones I talk about in my new workbook, Reincarnation workbook. And if, Jason, if you don't mind if I give a plug,
no, definitely.
The book is on sale on my website, so you can buy the book real cheap on my website. It's like $5. A lot of our propensities, a lot of things that we enjoy or are repelled by in this life are directly related to either immediate past life or a long-term past life. But it's something that's hung on with us for maybe millennia. So that's how you can explain these.
So good chances are Zach was a big-time spicy-eating, cigar-smoking, some kind of person in a past life.
Right.
It seemed to be born in his DNA.
And it could be two different lives. But right. He brought both of those into this life.
Zach, I just picture his little baby trying to reach for somebody's cigar. That's
I'll have to share a story about when I was a kid related to cigars, but I'll do it another time.
Okay.
But anyway, I've already shared this story already on the show before. It might have been related to a past life or not. I'm not too sure. But it came to me in a dream, actually. I remember I was in a really dark place. I didn't know where I was, but I could feel a gun pointed up against the back of my head. And all I said out of my mouth was, "Make it quick." I hear a gunshot go off, and I fall over, and I can't move. But I can feel that gasoline is being poured on me.
Oh, yes.
And then I was set on fire.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, Margery, we talked about this happened with the last time. Okay, Margery's friends with our previous guest we had on Reincarnation was Gordon Curley Smith. And this came up, I think, on his show. Zach called in and told this story. When I found, and Zach, Zach started calling his show, 3 years ago almost? We've been on for 3 years. Zach, called in almost every Sunday night. We have this connection, me and Zach, like a shared interest. You know what's funny, Margery, is when I was in high school, I was in TV class, and I made a movie, a short, silent movie, and there's a death scene at the end. The whole thing revolves around this death scene. It's actually at the beginning and it's the end of the movie. All revolves around a scene that basically is Zach's death. It looks just like how Zach described his death there.
Oh, my goodness. Well, y'all were probably related in a past life.
I hope I didn't kill you, Zach.
And you probably had some knowledge of it, and that was your way of expressing it.
I find that so weird. Gordon thought that was amazing. He thought that was awesome.
But maybe you and I were in the mafia in a past life. I don't know.
Wouldn't surprise me. Well, when you said you shared it before, I'm like, what's your story? I can't believe I even forgot about that. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, that still amazes me.
Yeah, and see, this is not uncommon. I mean, more and more souls are linking up. I've got several since I decided to talk about reincarnation. It's amazing the number of women who have been drawn into my life. And as soon as we meet, we know we've known each other before.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced it. Well, thank you, Zach, for calling in.
That was a great question, Zach.
Brother. Margery, thank you so much for answering my question. Jason, thank you so much for allowing me to call in. Cannot wait to hear more about what you have to say, Margie.
Thank you.
All right. Hopefully we still got Laura Lee on the video Skype line, Jeff. You got her on hold there? We'll let her call in. She's been holding. I'm getting some echo from somewhere. I don't know where. Now it's gone. Weird. Wasn't Jeff. He's muted right now. Hopefully, he still got Laura Lee on. I know she was holding there. There she is. There's Laura Lee. Hopefully this works. Soup Live Chat's been down for so long. Hopefully this works.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, Laura Lee. Thanks for calling in.
Hi, Margery. Oh, thanks for taking my phone.
Hi, Laura Lee.
Margery. Join you. I have a quick question and a quick retail, I guess, of a couple past lives. I'm a psychic medium, but all my life, I'm also a nurse. And when I graduated, I bought this beautiful sports car. And every time I would drive it on the highway, I could literally see myself going through the windshield, the blood on the windshield, the glass breaking everywhere. I've never discovered what that past life is. But I also believe, Jason, when you said about the water, I've been like that my whole life. And I do past life readings, but I hear what you say about psychics. For me, it's much easier to validate somebody's experience versus just trying to tune in. I mean, especially if somebody's had numerous past lives. And like you said, especially someone for yourself that knows them all, we're not always right 100%, even as a psychic medium. But with that being said, my question is, and the really weird thing is, Margery, I didn't know Jason was having you on the show, but I have been so drawn to past life regression this week. I've been looking at nothing but videos, learning more and more and more about this. I'm fascinated with it. But how does one go about finding somebody that is reputable, that is a past life regression therapist that you might be able to trust?
Well, you could call your local psychological association. We have the Georgia Psychological Association here in Atlanta, which, of course, is the licensing arm for the whole state of Georgia for psychologists. And that's how I found Dr. Shank. I called him and I said, do you have a parapsychologist? Because I didn't tell y'all in this episode, but it's in my book. Before I found a psychologist, I thought I was crazy, and I went to see a psychiatrist and told him my whole story, and he thought it was fascinating. And he said, you don't need to be talking to me. He said, there's nothing wrong with you. You need to be talking to parapsychologists. About my dreams and nightmares and all. He said, you need to be talking to a parapsychologist. I said, well, I don't know where a parapsychologist is. Well, at that time, it was a Dr. William Roll at West Georgia University here in Georgia, in Carrollton, which is about a 2-hour drive from Atlanta. He said, you need to be working with Dr. Roll. I said, I can't be going down there, that's not going to work. So I didn't do anything about it for a while, but then things got so bad I had to get help, and I called the Georgia Psychological Association. I said, do y'all have a parapsychologist? And they said, sure, Dr. Shank. And guess what? He was 10 minutes from my office. I mean, it was meant to be for me to work with him. Yeah, so you can find them, right? Of course, Dr. Brian Weiss is doing a lot of work now. You could reference his website. He may have some. I'll try to find some and put them on my website.
Yeah, that's always been my question. Is like, I want to do it, but who do I go to? Who do I? How do I find somebody that does it?
Now, there are a lot of good licensed hypnotherapists, but if you go to a hypnotherapist, you need to make sure that they're trained in past life regressions.
Right. Seems like it'd be a whole other ball of wax, for them.
Right. I mean, it's one thing to go to a hypnotherapist to get treatment for smoking cessation. It's another thing to do past life work.
Unless your smoking's coming from a past life, you didn't
true.
both, right? Which I'm sure is a good possibility. Well, thank you, Laura Lee, for calling in.
I just have a question for you, Margery, quickly. So
where
I am, I'm quite isolated. Is that something that you can do over a Skype call, per se?
Could you do it over a Skype call with a psychologist?
Or with, with a psychologist, yeah.
Yeah, you could probably find some. That's a very interesting question, Lily. I'm going to look into it and see if I can't find some folks. You can contact me through my website because I would like to stay in touch with you and see what you've got going on.
She's got a lot going on.
My email address and my phone numbers are all on my website.
Okay,
so I will put some research into that and post some links on my website.
Well, thank
All
you,
right,
Lorley.
thank
You have a great night. Thanks for calling in.
you too. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
You know, she's got a lot of interesting stuff going on, like, you know, demonic activity in her home and all this other stuff she's had, you know, crazy paranormal experiences and stuff happening to her. And you wonder how that affects you. I've heard stories, Margery, of people being haunted by a spirit they find out that is haunting them from a previous life. Is that a possibility?
Well, yeah, sure, because that's exactly how I felt when this little lady reappeared to me that night in economics class in college.
Yeah.
I really thought I was being haunted.
But that was you, though. What you were seeing was you, right?
But I was seeing a vision of myself in a past life.
Right.
And I think, and I'm just an ordinary person. I'm not unique. I'm unique because I never forgot the dream that I had as a child. But these sort of things happen to people all the time. And once you start engaging people in conversations that are open to this dialogue, they will start revealing things to you, and they say, my goodness, wow, all my life. Let me give you a good example. One of the reasons I feel like work that me and people like Gordon and all and Carol Bowman, our work is important. There was an interview a couple of years ago on the TV with Bruce Jenner, who became Caitlyn Jenner.
Right.
Because he was, he wanted to be a different sex.
Right.
And during that interview, he said he could not remember a time in his life when he did not want to be a girl. That is very clearly a past life memory.
See, that's a touch.
And I think.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say that's a touchy subject. It's kind of a touchy subject. I mean, I have friends that are gay or also transgender, and I always wanted to ask them if they felt like that could be a possibility, but I don't want to offend them, And but I always wondered if that could be a possibility. Everybody's got to wonder if you start digging into the reincarnation and how it affects us, is that they're like this because of a past life.
Well, I think with transgenders and people with gender identity problems, it's very clearly past life.
Right. It just seems
now,
like that's the most logical explanation, staring us right in the face.
Right. Now, I've got a lot of friends that are gay. And I've got a whole different perspective on people that are gay. Are you familiar with the Emmanuel books? They're sort of like Conversations with God, but it's this woman, a medium.
It sounds familiar. I haven't read them, but
Okay.
it does sound familiar.
Well, and one of the Emmanuel books, Emmanuel says the reason that that people are gay is because really when you're gay, you're androgynous. You're not in a duality of a relationship. It's an androgynous relationship, and God is androgynous. God is not male or female.
Well, that
and when I read that, I thought, oh my God, every one of my gay friends is so kind and so loving. And they don't need duality in them anymore.
That makes a lot of sense. That really does.
And I feel like that's why we've got more and more gay people. They're trying to say, love, love, love. Don't hate, love.
Most of my not all the gay people I've known, but most of them, I'd say 90% of them are very loving, and that they are all about love. Not all. So, I wouldn't say there's some that aren't so much, but most of them I know are that way. Yeah, it's totally that way, and it makes you wonder. I've thought about, like I said, it can be a touchy subject. I've never really discussed it honestly. With any of my friends that are gay. But it's something I've always thought about. I want to talk to them about it, but like I said, I don't want to offend them. Like I'm not trying to, make any judgments on what some of them are. I think most of them believe they were born and they're born that way, so that's not offensive to them. But I still feel like it's a touchy subject for them. But man, that really. The whole duality thing makes sense. And if you look back in there's a number of Native American traditions that have these kind of like. I want to say like shamans in their community who are, if we look at it now, would be kind of transgender or they were kind of like they had this kind of, I don't know what you call it, female and male duality together in one person. That's what it was. And
right.
And you know, they respected and honored that. They thought it was, you know, when somebody was that, there was a purpose to it. There was a reason. They were there to help the community.
Right. And I think there's a reason for everybody has everything going on that they do. And we need to connect with that rather than being condemning and judging. We need to connect with what their mission is all about and what they are here to teach us.
I've always said, you know, when it comes to people that have been very judgmental of the gay community or people who are homosexual, it is like, well, you believe in God, right? And God makes everything. Well, he made them. He made them that way. You know, there's a reason, there's a purpose. You might think they made a choice, but I'll tell you what, I've known enough gay people in my time that there is not a choice. It is who they are. And,
exactly.
and the people need to realize that and understand that they're that way. Then God made it that way for a reason. Mm-hmm. Stop judging it.
One of the dearest friends I've ever had is a gay man.
Mm-hmm. Man, it makes you wonder how you know, when it comes to, especially with the gender identity, and that's a very touchy subject in itself.
Gender identities, I think, is a different subject.
Right, but that really does
relate. I think that's where past lives can come in. In fact, I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago about it because they were worried about their child, and I said, I just want you to be aware of this. Now, I'm not a licensed psychologist. I can't. Right. I have to be real careful when I say things. I just say, just put the ideas out there. But I said, maybe some past life regression to help them resolve this issue about why they want to wear a dress all the time as a little boy. And they had never even thought of it. And I said, oh, I never thought of that. So people are opening up to it. But think of the emotional pain that these people are in. I mean, we need to help them. Right. We don't need to condemn them. We need to help them.
Yeah, exactly. Because imagine not being able to be who you feel you truly are.
Exactly.
You know, we all want to, as a human being, express ourselves and be who we are. We don't want to pretend all the time. That's draining.
Right.
So yeah,
and that's one of the things that Bruce Jenner mentioned. He wanted to be who he felt like he really was. And I kept thinking, during that interview, I kept thinking, if he had had past life regression therapy and found out that his prior incarnation, he was a girl, and maybe she died young and didn't live a good long life as a female, and that's why she wanted to come back. That entity wanted to come back as a girl, and somehow got confused and got in a male body.
Right.
And they say that happens. And Carol Bowman talks about it in her books, and Dr. Ian Stevens. Well, I don't think he did so much. He was more into traumas, but you know, sometimes the soul will get confused. And this is another thing that opened my mind reading Carol Bowman's books. Say a soul incarnates into a body that's going to be female, and then it's aborted.
Ooh, that's another touchy subject.
Right. Then what happens to that soul?
Right. Well, that's why
it's looking for another body, and it goes and it incarnates into a male body. It's, I made a mistake.
Right. Man, you get into these topics, especially I say with reincarnation, you get into these touchy subjects. But yeah, you know, a planned life, a baby's going to be born, and then it's ended. You know,
right.
You know, there was a purpose to this baby. I'm not, you know, getting into pro-choice or pro-life arguments here or anything.
Yeah, no, I don't either.
But you know, at the same time, there's got to be some consequences for this. There's got to be some deeply spiritual repercussions for ending a fetus's life, because there was a plan for that fetus. I would think if this is true about reincarnation and another side and afterlife, then when that fetus's life is ended, that plan was ended. You know.
Exactly right, and it has to go back and plan again.
And that saddest thing to me about abortion. You know, people want to know my take on it. I'm a libertarian. I believe the government should stay out of things and stay out of women's reproductive systems. If you want to know the truth,
I do too.
but at the same time, I wish to God that no one would ever have an abortion. I think we should just try to change people's minds That's how you solve a problem. Change people's minds.
Well, I think we need a spiritual enlightenment.
Yep.
Is to the sanctity of real life.
Yep.
Which is the soul's life.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
we're getting some touchy subjects tonight, but you can't help it. You can't help
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
No. This is the show.
I just wanted to be honest, and
exactly.
You know, we are eternal souls, and we all need to connect with that. And if we did, we would have a wonderful place to live. We wouldn't have all this animosity. We wouldn't have all this duality of opinions and feelings. Everybody would work together for the highest and best good of everybody.
And maybe that's why the church suppressed it.
Maybe that's why church what?
Maybe that's why the church suppressed it.
Oh, yes. Well, the church wanted to control people.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
the church wanted members. Because members pay tithes and bring offerings. That makes the church rich.
I do want to remind the audience you can call in 219-230-4444. Skype ID is OOJBland00 or Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat is the video Skype ID. The lines are open. You can call in and please tell us if you've had, like Zach did, a past life memory. You know, I still can't get over when he first told me that, Margery, when we had Gordon Curley Smith on, and he said that. I'm like, oh my God, that is my scene from the movie that I made. And you know, we made this connection doing this show. You wonder how these connections do end up playing out in our lives. Your other past lives, have you discovered other connections with people in your life from those?
Some have not been real positive.
Well, you wonder, yeah.
But now, one that I did not write about in my book, Finding Margaret, because most of them I did write about in the book, Finding Margaret, but there was one that I didn't write about because I thought I was saving that for another book. It was the Spanish Inquisition, and it was the only lifetime I've found myself as a male entity.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird experience, isn't it? I mean, my memory
of very, very cruel person. Well, belonged to the Spanish Inquisition, was torturing people that didn't believe what the church believes.
Yeah. So he was He was a torturer?
Yes.
Wow. Every time I think of the Spanish Inquisition, I think of Mel Brooks and A History of the World. Inquisition, you know. No, I've probably never seen that movie, but that, you know, that's one of those past lives I wouldn't want to discover.
No, I didn't want to discover it either. Now, the interesting thing about that is when I was in grammar school and we started studying world history, I think 5th grade, and we got to the subject of that period in history and the Spanish Inquisition. And I remember when the teacher said we're going to be talking about something called the Spanish Inquisition, I was so sick I almost threw up.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know why, and getting through that chapter was grueling for me. I cried, and I had a terrible asthma attack, and then I got through it and didn't think any more about it, except for I kept thinking, oh, the Spanish Inquisition is horrible, the Catholic Church is awful, and all this stuff. So, you know, you forget this stuff as you age. But then when I did a past life regression, and Dr. Schenk, he'd always say, go to the source of. He never led me. He would always say, go to the source of. In one of our sessions, he said, go to the source of. It was something I was dealing with physically. It wasn't the arm. It was something else. And there I was. And I thought, oh, my gosh. This life has been, I mean, if you saw my medical chart, you would flip out. It's unbelievable what I have been through physically in this life.
It's like you're paying for all the other past lives.
I realized then it was karma.
Yeah.
From that entity. The things that happened to me, people say, how do you handle it so well? I say, oh, it's just something I got to get through.
And maybe that's why you've never been a male in any of the other past lives, as far as you know so far, because you don't want to attach to that experience.
Exactly.
Wow. That you know, that's what I'm afraid. There is a fear of mine to find out more about because the two past life memories I have, man, they were pretty traumatic events in both. and it does give me a little bit of fear to find out like who I was, because I believe there's evil and good in everybody, and that plays out, like has to have played out in our past lives. We could have been the villain in a past life. I partly look at it as getting to, it's like when you pick up a book and it's fiction and you get to jump into those characters, and maybe you identify with the villain in that book more than you identify with anybody else, because we always identify. There's somebody in a book when you read. At least I do. I have imagination, So
me too.
that's how I've always looked at reincarnation. Now, I want to get more about your past lives. This is so interesting. But we do got somebody waiting on hold. We're going to take a phone call here. I think we got Nicole on the phone line. You there, Nicole?
Hi, yes. How you guys doing?
How you doing? Thanks for calling in, Nicole.
I do have a past life memory, actually.
Ooh, oh, I love it. Please share. Yes.
It was a long time ago, before I realized I had, some psychic abilities. And I wasn't even looking for it. It just happened. So, I would happen to be riding in the backseat of my grandparents' car. And, kind of like daydreaming.
Daydreaming, you said?
Yeah, in that state. And then I actually saw someone sit in the middle. Like I saw myself as an Indian woman. But it's a weird part. All I saw was the back part. I didn't see the front.
You just could see the back of the Indian woman's head?
Yeah, when her sitting like in a cross style. Like just meditating. So that's kind of peaceful one.
No.
That's all I remember.
How old were you when you had this vision?
12, 13.
Around 13 years old? How old do you think that the Indian woman was that you saw?
She looks like well in her 20s or 30s.
Okay. And that's just it stuck with you this whole time. Did you know, like when you had that vision, that was it? That was definitely from a past life?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was with my dreams. It's like I just knew that's what this was.
And I'm also part Cherokee Indian, so I don't.
Me too. Yeah, you wonder how that carries through. Yeah. Maybe we were in the same Cherokee tribe, Nicole. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, maybe.
Well, I'm Cherokee. Go for it.
Nice. I was wondering if I could think before I forget it again. It's our dreams, like we have vivid dreams, the result of our past life that we're remembering.
Sorry, talk a little bit more closer to the mic there. It's hard to hear you. Say that again.
I'm having trouble understanding her.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, I have it close to my mouth. Does our vivid dreams the result of our past life experiences?
Our vivid dreams a result. I heard her. Our vivid dreams a result of our past life experiences.
Many times they are, yes.
That's my experience. Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of mine has a lot to do with being on a ship out in the ocean.
Oh.
Especially, I was going to say, especially if they repeat. If they repeat.
Yes.
So ship on the ocean. See, me too, Nicole. Maybe we served on the same ship together. I don't know. You've been calling to my show for a while now. But yeah. So since you were been a kid, in your earliest memories, you've been afraid of water, right?
Right.
Yeah, me too.
Whenever I go to the Queen Mary, I always feel right at home.
Ooh, I've never been to the Queen Mary. My mom went, and I've always wanted to go. One day. Yeah, maybe we're on the Queen Mary. That, my fear of water, though, you talk about recurring dreams, Margery. One of the things I always attribute to my fear of water is a recurring dream where I'm on a beach and there's this huge tsunami, like this huge, like 3-story, 4-story tall wave coming at me. And I've always attributed that because I've had that reoccurring dream all my life. And so I've always attributed that. I don't know if that's past life or that's something metaphorical. I don't know.
Wow, yeah, that's where past life therapy is becoming good.
Yeah, no kidding.
more than likely it is if you've had it all your life.
Yeah. Oh yeah, all my life. I think I've had it since I was a kid. Nicole, thank you for calling in.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Have a great night, hon.
Yeah,
Me too.
Nicole's question was kind of my question too about the vivid dreams, because I've had two that are complete opposites, but one I'm part Cherokee as well, and one of them is had been recently is I've been dreaming about Indians and waking up, like, well, not waking up, but sleeping, but coming out of my body and looking at myself.
Oh,
and yeah,
Like astral travel.
Yeah. And the other one, which is completely opposite, goes back to what we were talking about just a few minutes ago. I've had this reoccurring dream that I was an executioner that ran a guillotine.
Ooh.
Wow.
And it's really, really, it's not a good dream. It's really
It's
graphic,
vivid?
really, very, very.
That's the
smells,
two I
sights.
had. It's very vivid,
Yeah.
very intense. Man, we'll see. Not wanting to find out about your past life there.
Yeah,
That's that one. And what,
that one freaks me out. I'm
What kinda-
totally down with the Indian dream, but yeah.
let's hope that karma's already been played out for you.
Yeah, I hope so. But yeah, executioner,
Well-
full on, leather, big guillotine, heads rolling. It's
It'll explain a lot about you, actually.
Yeah, maybe so.
So somewhere in a prior past life, between that entity and this one, you've probably had some neck problems.
Oh, I have neck problems right now, big time.
Me too. I hope I
You're
wasn't an
kidding,
executioner.
really?
No, really, I'm totally 100%.
Oh my
serious.
God! Well, that's the connection.
Yeah.
Is that like guilt pain? Because he was chopping people's heads off?
How interesting! And I assume you've been to a neurosurgeon. You've had a diagnosis.
Yeah, I've been diagnosed with a couple of things, but yeah, my neck, I can't turn my head very far at all. It's kind of
Wow.
Margery, is that like
Yeah.
guilt pain then? Like did he's like
Well, no, I wouldn't really call it guilt pain. It's a way. Let me just give my for instance, for myself, because
Yeah.
I don't like to judge or lay my opinions on other people, so I'll just give my own. I've had so many broken bones, and I've actually had a broken neck. My neck is fused from C2 down to C7, so I don't have a lot of mobility in my head either. But every time something has happened to me, a trauma to my body, it has never resolved easily. It's always, for example, I broke my foot. It took 8 months for my foot to heal.
Wow.
8 months. For my neck, 3 years in physical therapy. 2 major surgeries to put me back together. So everything that happens to me is long and drawn out. And what I've realized is it goes back to that time, the Spanish Inquisition. And it keeps recurring for me. This is my opinion of me, so that I won't forget what this life is about because of past life.
that makes sense. It's like you're getting your own like remembrance of torture.
Yeah, but you know
I
what
never
it's
even-
done to me? It's given me peace going through it. People say to me, how do you get through all you've been through and you don't cry and moan and complain all the time? And I say, I just deal with it. But deep down inside, I really know what I'm dealing with.
Wow.
And it's made it easier for me, for the most part.
Because you have some understanding, you know, in your belief system.
Because you've got, knowledge and understanding. Who was it? Bacon, who said, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
When you have knowledge of a past life, it gives you so much more power over this life.
It does seem like some people get over their phobias or their, the symptoms, health symptoms sometimes. Like you said, some people, it's more, almost instantaneously they get over something when they've acknowledged that past life. We got another phone call on the line here. Who do we got on the line?
This is Keith.
Hey, Keith. How you doing tonight?
I'm great. Great show as usual, Jason. Love
Thank
the
you.
guest and Margery. So nice to hear the things you talk about. I do have a question. I would like to give just a brief background. I was raised very devout Christian, and so some of the things that you've talked about tonight are kind of fly in the face of, what I was taught to believe. I'm not offended or anything because I believe being offended is a choice. And but I'm learning finally at 57 years old to think for myself. And I'm finding out things that, I've had a couple of readings, and Laura Lee actually did one for me, and it was awesome. And I'm beginning to believe that, yes, probably I have had past lives. And but I'm just so new to all this, and it's very confusing at times. And, I don't recall any past lives, but I have had some overwhelming deja vu moments. And not so much that, I know what's around the corner, as someone said earlier, but it's just like, I have definitely been here.
It's a knowing.
So, yeah, you just know. And I'm talking about take your breath away, just your heart skips a beat almost knowing, to that extent. So that, just giving you that background, my question is, and once again, reincarnation was something I was taught does not happen. Okay, so, but like I said, I am finally come to the point where I know there were books taken out of the Bible. I'm like, why? And so things like that make me think. Now, my question is, with reincarnation, is there a stopping point, or does it just keep repeating and repeating and repeating? It seems that the purpose of reincarnation would be to grow your spirit, to become everything you're supposed to ultimately be. But do we reach that point? And that's my question. And thank you for listening to my little story there.
It's a great question.
I loved it. Well, the first part about Christianity and belief in reincarnation, I believe, this is my personal thought, reincarnation is simply a belief in eternal life. You have to throw away all the Hindu stuff, all the Buddhist stuff, any other religion that says yay or nay, and this is how it works. Because you got to realize all those rules and regulations were written by men, or as I like to say, little monks in the basement of an old church building somewhere.
Yes, ma'am. I heard you mention that earlier.
Why should our lives be determined by somebody that lived 1,000 years ago that had an idea about something? Right. So I just have to live my life according to what I know, and I know that my soul is eternal. What reincarnation has done for me and my past life regressions, because I have had past life regressions where I went to the end of an entity's life, and I've done that several times. And what that did for me is it reaffirmed my belief in God and my belief in Christ.
Okay, that's powerful.
It reaffirmed it. So my faith in God and my faith in Christ, who was just God come to earth, was totally reaffirmed. And that's why people say, because I don't go to church all the time now because of where I live. It's almost an hour drive to get to church. So, I tell people, your faith doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to church every Sunday. In fact, there's a lot of people going to church every Sunday that don't live their faith.
No kidding. Well, I
said for years, the church in and of itself has never saved a single soul.
Right.
It's your relationship with the Spirit.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. And to me, if my faith and my belief in reincarnation deepens, makes stronger my faith in God, then it's a good thing.
And
there are several references in the Bible to reincarnation that did survive the purge.
Oh, I know.
One of them is where the disciples asked Jesus, "Is he Elijah come again?"
Yep. That's one of the most clear.
What better case of reincarnation could there be?
Think about it, the resurrection is sort of a reincarnation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because technically,
what happened when Jesus? Yeah, when Jesus came back, they didn't recognize him.
Right.
He had to show he had to show them his scars before they recognized him. And now we have people being born with scars from a past life trauma.
Right.
Oh my! So Jesus did that. So why can't we? Jesus said, "Greater things than I have done, you will do." Right?
Exactly. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. I know other people probably want to call in. Thank you for taking my call, Jason. Once again,
thank you. It was a great question.
Show. And everyone have a fantastic night. Bye-bye.
You too, Keith. That was a really great question.
Blessings on you.
But I kind of want to get to it because I feel like we still haven't answered the question totally, though, because what he's asking is there ever an end to the reincarnation?
Oh, we did not get to that. Well, that gets back to the rules and regulations laid down by some monk sitting in the bottom of
right. So my mom's actually Buddhist, and so I'm familiar with it. And I actually was I'm agnostic, just so you know. I'm a spiritual agnostic. I believe in an afterlife and a higher power, but I question I don't put any religious quantifying factors on it, and I keep myself pretty much open and question everything, except for the fact that there's an afterlife, or reincarnation. I really believe in. So I'm not I'm an agnostic in a sense. I question everything, but in Buddhism, I didn't get into it because there's some things I didn't agree with. I just don't think would be possible for reincarnation. But one of the things in Buddhism is that you're supposed to achieve enlightenment and end this cycle of rebirth. Like you're supposed to move on and go to nirvana. Finally, do you think, or do we just keep being reborn? And is there ever an end to it?
Well, let me ask you this: why would you want it to end?
True. I mean, well, it depends on what's on. Maybe Nirvana's a really cool place. It was a cool band.
You can take a long rest, or as my friend Wayne says, time out. He calls our time between eternity and Earth. He calls that time out time. You've played on a football team, and you're going to have time out. You're going to sit on the bench. He says, you just go to the other side, you rest for a while, and then you come back. You want to keep getting back in the game.
Or you're in hockey and you get in a fight on the ice and they put you in the timeout there.
Put you in the cage. Right.
Well, let's hope they gave Hitler a big timeout, but he's not come back yet.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, Jamie, please.
If we're on a timeout, what happens to our consciousness during the timeout?
Our consciousness, we always have our consciousness.
So while we're like on a break,
when we go to the other side, we take our consciousness with us. That's what it is. That's what our soul consciousness is.
But while we're on a break in between.
Yeah, where do we go? Basically?
Oh well, what I meant, what Wayne meant when he said we're on timeout, it means we're in eternity. That's what he calls timeout. And then we come back. We cross the bridge, as I like to say. We cross the bridge and we come back into an entity on this side. I call it putting on your earth suit.
Well, people are talking to ghosts or talking to spirits, and I've had the instance, or you have your loved one you see after they passed on. I've had that experience more than once, and so we know they're not reincarnating right away. We're having these contact with the other side, So obviously, but they could explain why, some mediums, somebody wants to contact somebody on the other side, and medium's just not able to, because maybe that person's already gone, already been reborn.
Well, I wonder if there's if you have a choice.
But there's also a, I mean, when you think about it, we're all part of universal consciousness. So whether you're incarnated or not,
True. I've always thought that
contacted.
too. You could still be contacted. They're contacting your higher self or something along those lines.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I've always thought that too. That's a good possibility. Well, we got to go to our last commercial break, Margery. So hold on there with us.
Okay.
We'll come back. We're still taking phone calls, guys. Call in 219-230-4444. You can call in on Skype ID OOJBland or on the video Skype line Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat, where you can see you, you can see us. Again, 219-230-4444. Skype ID OOJBland or Skype ID Soup Live Chat 800 Live Chat. Guys, make sure you're sharing that in the chat room for people. I'm not in the L&M chat room. Once they get the mobile app working, then I can get into the L&M. I don't have another computer I can really get on there and chat. So sorry to the L&M people that are in that chat room. Eventually I'll be in there, but even still I wouldn't be in there because I'm horrible at doing a show and being in a chat room. That's why I got Jamie and Rob to do that for me. All right, guys, we'll be back after a short commercial break. And don't forget to go Late Night in the Millions Radio Network. Go donate, subscribe, do what you can to help keep this great network together with all these great hosts. All right, guys, be back in just a few minutes.
Heat 'em up. Do, re, be gone.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, we've been talking to our guest, Margery Phelps, about reincarnation. If you're just joining us, you're a little bit late, but you can still call in. We're talking about reincarnation. Have you had a reincarnation memory or an experience or deja vu you thought this had to been a past life? Call in and tell us about us. And if you got questions about past lives and reincarnation, it can be a very complicated idea, I think, you know. It's an amazing idea. I think it's an idea that would change the world if more people looked into it and accepted that. And it could explain so many things. And you have to wonder, you know, what I mentioned Hitler. You know, is he in a timeout right now, or did he get reborn? That's a scary thought. But maybe he's a nice guy now. I mean, Margery, she seems really nice, but she was Spanish Inquisition. She was torturing people. Now she's a 74-year-old, very nice lady. You wonder, how much have you changed from the life you led before? It makes me wonder. I mean, I dreamt I was a black little girl who was beaten to death, and I also dreamt I was a Buddhist monk. And that past life memory explains a lot for what happened into it. But how much have you changed from your past life? There's so many possibilities with it. So let's get back to our guest. Still there with us, Margery, and hopefully hear me?
I'm here.
All right, awesome. Yeah, you know, one of the things too, I'm very open with my kids, like my mom was, about religious ideas and that. You know, we're a very open-minded family here, of course. And I was trying to explain to my kids about my oldest son. He's 7. You know, we were actually looking. You know, Gordon has these books. Gordon Curley Smith. It's about penguins. He loves to say penguins, but it's like a reincarnation story. And I did read those with my children, and I was trying to explain reincarnation to my son. I'm like, you know, he watches. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but you ever seen Doctor Who?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you know, the Doctor regenerates, and he becomes a completely different person, even though he has all the memory. He has all the memories of that previous existence, but his new personality, you know, is going to like to dress differently. Is going to like to do new things. And the newest Doctor is a woman. You know, and that's what I tried to explain to my son, the basic idea of reincarnation. And it makes you wonder how much we carry on from that past life, but how much have we completely changed from those past lives?
Yeah, because I believe, and I agree with Dr. Brian Weiss, who is a medical doctor, psychiatrist, who's done a lot of work on past lives, and is one of the deans of past life research now. That we have different levels, that we have different lessons that we need to learn, and no soul can learn them all in every life. You know, compassion, kindness, love, universal acceptance, making up to somebody for something that we didn't do in the past. For example, my situation with this college professor. I had to prevent him and somebody he loved from being in a devastating accident in Atlanta. In this incarnation, because I had failed to protect him in a prior life.
Oh, see, we didn't get to that. So you actually ended up fulfilling that, protecting him in this life.
Right.
Wow. That is incredible. How did I have to know? I mean, how did you save his life?
Well, it's kind of a long, complicated story, but it involves a plane wreck here in Atlanta.
Really? Wow. And that's crazy. You were brought back here. We don't have a lot more to the show left, and we do have somebody waiting on the phone. But that is incredible, Margery. That, you know,
and how it all came together to find everybody and all the pieces of the puzzle to prevent this disaster.
Wow. Now, this is in your book, Finding
Margaret.
Finding Margaret.
Right.
I'm gonna have to get this book. I'm gonna have to get this book because, you know, all these stories. Whenever I'm so interested, I've read a lot of different past life stories and research on it. They're just so interesting because one, I love history. I'd love to be able to time travel. I'm a big time travel freak. That's one of the reasons why I want to do the past life regression, because I want to be able to see the past. If I lived in a past life, I want to see the past because I would love to have a time machine to do it. Well, doing a past life regression seems like a little bit like having a time machine too.
It is. That's exactly. Yeah, it is. I mean, you just go back, you see everything. You know, when I was in Boston in the 1750s, I remember everything. I could probably go to Boston today and find my way around.
I really have to look into doing a past life regression. All right, let's get before we run out of time. I want to definitely get this phone call. Who do we got on the phone line?
Hey, Jason, it's Chandra.
Hey, Chandra, thanks for calling in.
Hey, so I have a question. How do you know, like, what body part that has pain means what? Like,
how
for
do you know what?
My right shoulder always hurts, and no matter what I do, it always goes back to hurting.
And it's always hurt, like, since you were a child?
You know, actually, it's been since I was an adult. It's been for, I'm going to say probably since my divorce.
But you don't know how you injured it, right?
Well, I've injured both of my shoulders at different times in my life. My right shoulder, I hurt back in like 2001, but it didn't really bother me until after the initial upset. It didn't really bother me until after
the divorce,
like 2011. So I mean, that's a 10-year period. Why would it all of a sudden just start hurting?
And your orthopedist has diagnosed a specific problem, or have they not been able to identify anything causing it?
They say there's nothing wrong with me.
No, love that explanation.
Oh, so okay, that's when you
It's
clue into the fact it's a past something going on with a past life, because if they can't find anything wrong with you, that was my problem when I was going to the neurosurgeon. They said they could diagnose the fact that there was something wrong, but they didn't know what it was. So if you've got the pain and the disability, but they don't know what caused it,
Did they tell you that it was all in your head?
No, I was very fortunate. They never got that far. Now, in my case, I was really, really fortunate because it ended up that the neurosurgeon I was going to, his wife was a psychologist. And on one of my visits with him, he said, I've been talking to my wife about your case because it's so unusual. So there's something there for you. There's something there for you to explore. Do you have anybody that you could work with?
Have to look into like past life regression or something. Huh?
Especially if the pain's gotten to the point, or the disability's gotten to the point where it's affecting your lifestyle.
Yeah, I didn't paint for a whole month because my shoulder was bothering me. So.
Oh wow!
You know,
yeah,
it does affect different things. So, but I didn't.
And if you've been to the medical doctors and they said there's nothing wrong with it and have insinuated it's in your head, it's not in your head; it's in your soul. And you can resolve it. You can recover from it. Don't be scared of it. Look at it as a new adventure that you're going to take, and you will find out what the source of it is, and you can release it.
Yeah, it'd be great to end the pain, right?
Okay.
I mean, anytime I tell people, anytime we have something that affects our daily activities in life and our daily enjoyment, then that's the time to do something about it.
Okay.
So good luck.
Well, thank you very much.
I'd be interested to know what you find out. Could you get back in touch with me and let me know what you find out? Okay. My website's findingmargaret.com.
Yeah, I'll have to find somebody that does the past life regression or whatever in order to
Well,
do that, because I don't feel confident enough to do something like that on my own. So, you know.
Well, go to our website.
Have to find somebody local here.
Well, definitely go to our.
I don't hypnotize you like you do. I don't trust people.
Oh, well, sometimes that can be good. Okay, well, good luck. Stay in touch. Let me know what you do. What happens?
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you for calling in, Chandra.
Bye.
Well, it makes me wonder, when you guys are talking about this, it makes me wonder, because I've 4 years ago, my neck started just killing me, and into my shoulder, into my arm, and all that, and the doctors really, they're like, even the doctor goes, oh, you got moderate arthritis on the, on your right side of your neck. I'm like, it's the left side I came in here for. And he just looked at me like I'm crazy. So it makes me wonder about my own problem. Do you think some of these pains that, these weird medical things that pop up, they pop up in your life at the point that they happened to you in the previous life, maybe at the same age?
Well, not necessarily. Like my situation with my arm was triggered by meeting the teacher.
Well, yeah.
Who I had failed to save in a prior life, and so I went through the injury that I went through in that lifetime.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So many times there's a triggering mechanism for it.
Yeah.
Like somebody going, now, that was Nicole. What made her story interesting is that the problem came up after her divorce.
Right. You wonder if that could have been the trigger.
So so there's something there that triggered it.
But you wonder though, like if you hit a certain age, at the same age as something happened to your previous life, that could trigger it too. Just turning at the right age.
Well, that's a good point. I think that's a very valid point. I think with a lot of people it could be. They were in a car wreck when they were 15, and they're in another car wreck when they're 15.
Yeah, it makes you
whatever.
It makes you wonder. It could be a lot of different things that could probably trigger these past life. You can call them past life symptoms. What it is. I hit a certain age when I always wondered about my smoking. Now, when I was a kid, my mom's a respiratory therapist. I'm the stupidest smoker alive when I smoked, because I had a mom that was a respiratory therapist. I saw patients of hers whittle away to nothing and from cancer, and I knew what smoking would do to you. But I had of course, it was teenage years, so that could be the whole explanation right there. But I had this sudden spot in my life where I suddenly wanted to smoke. And I actually felt it as a kid, but I would always be like, oh, smoking's nasty, it's wrong. But I had this moment in my life where I wanted to smoke. Give me a cigarette. And even though the whole time I'm like, this is awful. What am I doing to myself? But I wanted a cigarette for no damn reason. And I've always wondered if there could be a connection to that. Do you think addictions
maybe
carry
that's
on?
when you started smoking in a prior life.
Right.
Because you said you liked the cigars.
Well, that was Zach. He liked the cigars.
Oh, it was Zach. Okay.
That was Zach, but I liked the cigarettes.
Right.
I mean, I was a
You
chain
liked the
smoker. Oh yeah, and I picked it up fast. I picked it up hard. Didn't get sick my first time. I was just like I was a regular smoker.
Wow, because most people that start smoking do have to adjust to it.
I didn't. I really didn't. I just was right away could start smoking a fiend, like chain smoking. I swear I was right off the get-go. The first one I was like,
interesting question.
yeah, I always wondered that. If that was a possibility. Do if you're an alcoholic in this life, is that a possibility in the next?
Sure.
That's a scary thought.
And see, a lot of these, and we have to be real careful because a lot of the propensities we may have may be in our physical form. In other words, it may be in our genetic for this
Right.
entity.
No, that makes sense. It definitely, but how much does, you wonder how much too, if people reincarnating within the same family lines, how much reincarnation affects our genetics.
Well, right. Now, in my case, I was an identical twin. My sister crossed the bridge a year and a half ago.
Sorry.
But she was my best friend for 71 years. We were in the womb together. We were identical twins. We came from the same egg. You can't be any closer than that.
Right.
And yet, she never had asthma or lung problems until she was much older. But I had asthma from very early age. Well, I died in Pompeii, inhaling toxic fumes.
Good point.
And then guess what happened to me when I was about 55 years old? I was in an accident, a toxic accident, and was repoisoned by toxic fumes.
Oh, my God.
Yes. I've got pretty bad COPD now because of toxic fumes in an apartment.
But why would you have to relive that? I mean, why would you have to go through that again?
I had gotten away from talking about reincarnation and writing about it.
Uh-huh.
I had pursued my career in health education, and not in the spirit side of it, but in the physical side of it. And I really believed that I had to have that accident to get me back where I'm supposed to be living my purpose in this life, which is to talk about what we're talking about tonight.
And you wonder, you have this whole purpose because you were an inquisitor, torturing people for their probably beliefs in reincarnation.
Right. Exactly.
Wow.
And think of all the people
lopping heads off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're lopping off heads. So think of all the people, all the souls incarnated right now that are dealing with these sort of issues. And everybody wonders why the earth is in chaos.
Because we're ignoring a
and
big
nobody
factor.
has come up with nobody's come up with a solution.
How do you think the world would change if we all accepted reincarnation? Like, what do you think? How would that change things?
It would be wonderful. There was a book, I was thinking about this book the other day. I think it was called 2040 AD. You ever read that book?
Mm-mm.
And it's about a world where everybody believes in reincarnation.
That's a book I'd want to read.
Yeah. Fabulous story. Absolutely fabulous story. And that is ultimately what happened, and everything was peaceful. Because everybody believed that they were responsible for their own situation in life, that there was something to learn from that situation, and that the way to resolve all their problems was to be kind and loving and accepting of every human being and every animal.
Now, in that book, did they remember? Were they able to remember their past lives too?
Yeah.
See, I think
They
that's
talk-
that would be the biggest changer if people could start realizing reincarnations by actually having the memories brought back, be able to remember. I
Right.
mean, seeing is believing.
Exactly.
It would change your factor if you're a male chauvinist pig here, and then you go and have a reincarnation memory, and you find out you were a woman. That might change your perspective. You know, might make you appreciate women a little bit more.
Exactly. There's a Facebook group that does reincarnation research, exactly the sort of stuff we're talking about tonight. I mean, it's huge. So it's. I feel like it's a movement. I talk to my friends all about that believe in reincarnation too, and everybody feels that there's a movement towards getting towards this loving acceptance of souls and their journeys on the earth.
I really feel like there should be a movement. We should be looking deeply into it. It amazes me how many people just don't even think about it. They don't, that just doesn't, they don't, it's all around them. There's all the clues. There's plenty of reading material out there on the subject, but nobody's really interested or wants to think about it. And it just amazes me because it's something I've thought about since my earliest memories of, I'm a deep thinker. I was since I was even a kid.
I was too.
But it just amazes me that nobody wants to think about these things or explore these concepts because they would change the world.
Well, there's two reasons. One, it's been drilled into their heads that there's only one life. How many times do you hear it?
And how sad is that?
You only live once. Why YOLO? You only live once.
Yeah.
Which is totally
I hate that term.
false. I do too. And the other thing is, when you're a YOLO person, you're extremely egotistical. You're extremely tied to what your ego is doing in this incarnation.
Maybe that's why. Well, that's why they're a YOLO person. They don't want to accept the fact that they've been somebody else or they're going to be somebody else. They love the ego they are now.
Right. But isn't it sad? Because look at how much damage they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to reincarnate, and they're going to repeat it if they don't come to some enlightenment or awareness that there's more to life than just drinking a cup of coffee for breakfast and putting on your clothes and going to work.
Well, for people that deny the idea of reincarnation, I'm like, well, that's pretty sad not to even think that it's possible. I mean, to think that this is just it. This is just this life. And we're expected to gain some great insight about life in just one time around. You got to be pretty lucky for that to happen, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
We need a little bit more than that. I mean, it'd be really sad if it was just one life we lived. I think,
And when you think about the people that have changed the world, what are their characteristics? They're kind and they're loving and they're accepting. Jesus Christ, Dr. Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi. Non-violent. Love and accept. And look at the impact they have in the world.
Do you think those people come back reincarnated and impact us again?
I wish they would.
We need it now. We need it now.
We sure need them.
So
we
bad.
sure need them. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring children into this world for so long, and God kind of forced that upon me because I just think the world is so messed up. But when I think about reincarnation, I have hope,
Right.
I have a hope that maybe after this life I get to be reborn into a little bit better world. Maybe, let's hope. It doesn't look so good right now, but maybe I'll get reborn into a Star Trek universe,
Right.
I can be part of Starfleet and get to go see space. That's my thoughts, the future.
Talk about paranormal, and I know you have all sorts of subjects. I was thinking the other day, so many people believe in we have UFOs and aliens and all this stuff, and I thought, it occurred to me the other day, what these people that are so obsessed in all these things, that's where they were.
An alien in a previous life.
Well, why do we have to call them aliens?
Well,
That's just another entity.
I think that's just our American way of saying, you're not American, you're an alien. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Differentiation.
They were an entity on another planet somewhere, and I think we would have to be extremely egotistical to say that we are the only life form in the universe.
Oh yeah, and that's
what I always say.
Yeah. Well, the idea is, you've been born on these lives, but there could be so many lives before you were even on Earth as other alien species or entities, if you want to call them. But remembering those might not be as easy because you're talking about a whole other kind of experience, probably.
Right. But don't you wonder if some of these people that are very knowledgeable of that area of study have actually been there, and that's why there's.
I've always felt I was an alien. I'll tell you that right now. I would not be surprised if I was from another planet in a previous life.
Me too.
Because I always felt like silly humans. We are so silly. We are so ridiculous. So as a little kid, I felt that way. I just felt we were so. I'm like, why do we do things this way? Why are we act this way? Well, Margery, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to give you the last minute here to get out any information you want to our audience.
Oh, okay. Well, it's Margery Phelps, Margery, Phelps, Phelps, MargeryPhelps.com, and my other website is findingmargaret.com. And y'all can contact me through the website on either of those. It's got my email. You can send me an email, and my phone number's on there. I'd love to hear from anybody. On findingmargaret.com, I do have a shopping cart, and all my books have been marked down. Now, it takes longer to get them because they have to come through my fulfillment rather than Amazon or Barnes & Noble or anywhere else you might buy books. But if you want a signed copy of the book, just send me an email and make the purchase online. It's a secured site, and I'll get the book signed and get it out to you.
Well, thank you. I'm definitely interested in reading your book, It's Finding Margaret?
Finding Margaret,
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. I love, like I said, I just love, to me, it's the closest thing I'll probably, if I ever get a chance to time travel, it'll probably be a past life regression, it'll be closest I'll get to it. And it's something I'm really, one of these days I'm going to get to do. I am down and determined I got to find somebody to do it. And tonight's show, Margery, you made me I got the itch to look. There's a little fear, there's a little trepidation to look into Jason Bland's reincarnation past. You ever seen the movie Defending Your Life?
No, I haven't, but I want to see it.
Go see this movie. It's from the 90s, I think.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm already lost at the actress and the actor, and they're both famous, and I totally lost my thought on who they are. I totally lost it. But in there, they go. This is all about they've died and they're in the afterlife, and they go to this thing and go see your past lives, and they go in there, and the one woman actress, I am totally lost the thought of who her name is. She was Arthur, or she was Sir Lancelot, and the guy, of course, he finds out he was eaten by a lion, and that's what I'm like. Will I find out I was Sir Lancelot, or will I find out I was eaten by a lion?
Oh,
that's always the fear. Well, thank you, Margery, so much for being on the show.
I loved it.
I'd love to have you on again to talk more about this because it's a subject I could talk a lot longer about if I had a voice.
Okay, well, you take care of yourself and get to feeling better.
Thank you. I will. And thanks, everybody, for watching and listening to my horrible, probably, voice tonight. But thank you anyways. Thank you for all the calls into the show. Some great questions tonight from the audience. I love it, and great stories and insights. Next Sunday's guest, I haven't looked yet. I keep forgetting to look before I show. Who am I going to have on next week? Jay Wyrick of Supernatural Serenity, paranormal investigator. So we're going to talk to him when we come back next Sunday. Same bad time, same bad channel. 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern. Come check us out at Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup on our Facebook page. Go donate and subscribe to Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Without you, we wouldn't have all these great shows, great hosts. Without you, we wouldn't have this network. So please donate, subscribe. All right, guys, see you next week. Have a great night.